is James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Welcome to a more civilized podcast. This is the podcast you're looking for. You may not go about your business. Stay here, listen, and then move along.
Listener, I'm not even sure how much of that you're going to hear before the episode or after, but gosh, what a treat that was. If for no one else than for me. Oh my goodness. If I were less adequate and more prepared, I would have had my episodes notes open already so I could do this.
Russ can't start from any point.
That's okay. I'm okay with my adequacy being revealed to the
We did
internet.
it last time. Why not this time?
I know. Oh, shoot. We've actually, speaking of last time, and I don't know, well, not really speaking of last time, it just popped into my head. But
Speaking of something maybe
Speaking
peripherally
of the
related to
time.
last time, or the time between last time and now when we are speaking,
speaking of
or maybe
time,
not related
guys,
to
what
any
is
of that.
time? No.
Wibbly wobbly.
I've been getting some good feedback for the show, so I just want to thank those that are giving that feedback. Specifically, Steven, you are
You're a
the
treasure.
wind in my sails, my friend. You keep me going on this. And, oh man, it's going to be great. And then just, online, I've had some good feedback, like on Twitter and things, about the podcast. So it's nice. And then, surprisingly, and identify yourselves, listeners, who the crap in Indiana decided to download, like, everything.
Yeah.
Thank you, by the way. That made me so happy.
I saw when you texted us about that, and I was like, I could see that being like, I used to, before I got an actual podcasting app, I would always just go to the website and I would physically download every single episode so that I could have them and not have to depend on internet connectivity or
Yes.
anything. And so I was like, maybe they're just doing what I used to do, and because I can't see why else, maybe they just have an app that
I
downloads
still
them
do
all
that.
at once, but...
iTunes might do it that way.
iTunes
Yeah,
does.
they'll
Well,
put
no,
the-
iTunes, no. If you subscribe on iTunes, it will automatically download from the day you subscribe forward. If you want back episodes, you still have to go through and
Does it?
actually
Okay.
tell them, I want this.
I wouldn't know. Those Apple users out there.
Yeah.
Well, but actually,
iTunes is like the only thing Apple I use, and
I
it's
don't
just
even
because
use
it's
that.
convenient.
the website, it's not iTunes because it'll track where it's
Yeah.
downloading from. It wasn't iTunes download.
Yeah,
so
I
whoever
know.
this
It was so. Anyway, whoever you are in Indiana, and I know it's not you, my sister Aubrey, because you don't love me or Star Wars enough to listen to this many hours of Star Wars content.
We understand, Aubrey.
Yeah, it's fine.
Which
and-
you'll never hear that, so oh well.
That's fine. I'll tell her I mentioned her in this episode and force her to listen to this.
Could be her
sure that
husband.
will
Is
Anyway,
work.
no.
he a Star Wars guy?
He is, but not enough to
Not
listen
the
to
level.
the hours of inane babble we have about Star Wars on this podcast. So whoever you are in Indiana, great. And whoever you are in Oklahoma, I was stalking you back.
Oh.
Okay. So Oklahoma, I noticed.
how?
Like I was at work, so I was away from my usual hovering over our website, and our statistics.
stats junkie.
Yeah, exactly. I totally am, which is surprising because I'm terrible at math, but I love stats. Anyway, and I noticed, I got home and I was like, oh, there's like 2 episodes downloaded in Oklahoma. Oh, that's interesting. That's cool. Someone accidentally hit, subscribe and then was like, oh, shoot, it's a mistake. That's what I thought. Check back a couple hours later, there's a 3rd one. And I'm like, what? Surely you didn't accidentally hit that button twice. And then, yeah. And then I'm like, I wonder. So every couple hours I would check back and there would be another one from Oklahoma. Until finally there were 6. And I'm like, this person is actually binging our show. There was about enough time in between the downloads for that
For
person
those
to have
episodes.
finished that episode. I'm like, someone's binging us. I felt so proud. I was like all teary-eyed and got my wife out of bed. I'm like, somebody's binging us. I know it's 11, but someone's binging our episode. Made me so happy. And then there was like another one this morning.
You know what?
Yeah.
Because I do like to be the opposition. I got thinking about our apparent Ninja Sweden listener.
Yeah.
I don't think we actually have a listener in Sweden.
Oh, no.
Because all of those that we see from Sweden are always within like 10 minutes of the episode posting.
Uh-huh.
Spotify, they're always through Spotify, which is based in Sweden. So I think because also
it
on
could
the
be
on the
something
analytics,
I'll take it.
Spotify is also its own separate section that you have to look at.
Gotcha.
And you never see any downloads in that section.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
true.
think
I
it's
wondered
just-
about that.
I think it's Spotify just actually.
That's
I
okay.
don't know if it's reviewing the
Spotify
episode
robot
or-
overlords, you're welcome, more than
Yes.
welcome to continue listening to our to our episode, and I should turn my
Yeah,
phone on.
I don't want to know what the AI that's been learning off of our show is going to turn out like. That's disturbing.
Anyway, so I have had a great week because of all of those boosting listeners. By the way, Indiana, more props to you. As of right now, as of the recording of this, there are more listeners, more downloads in Indiana than there are in Utah right now, where we're based.
For the last week.
If you look at just December, yeah, more downloads there.
Huh.
Which means, Indiana, if you want to keep me being this proud of you, you have to get all your friends to continue this insane hype and download everything.
And that concludes our State of the Podcast section.
Yeah. I'm sorry, we should introduce ourselves because we didn't. I'm the loudmouth Kyler.
Yeah, hey, if this is your first episode, sorry for that. I'm Chris.
I'm Ross, and I probably could cut all that out if I wanted to.
I mean,
don't.
You could,
No, I'm not
yes.
going to, but I could.
That
I
would
have
would be
unlimited
that
power.
Ross does hold the unlimited power in this podcast. That is true.
That would be more work than you really want.
Oh,
Yeah, for
man.
sure.
We're just
Yeah,
adequate.
no,
Not
that's-
that. That's not.
Yep.
So,
News.
news, yeah.
Yes.
Ross.
So, we have some good news for all of our readers out there today.
Yep.
There are two.
For our literate fans. For our illiterate fans, we're really sorry. Just keep listening.
Yeah, it's true. Idea for the next podcast: we just read Star Wars books.
I'm sure there would not be any sort of legal issue.
No, of course not.
None whatsoever. Well, if we read our own fanfic, then, you know.
I have never written fanfic in my life, and I refuse to start.
I would never.
You know what? If we
never,
ever set up a
go down.
Patreon, and if people actually want, we could put that as some sort of unlockable.
You heard it here.
I will stoop to writing fanfic.
Give
for-
us your money,
for
and
our
Chris
listeners.
will debase himself.
That's basically what it would be.
Here's the best part of that, though, is that it may not be authorized fanfic, but it would be canonical.
In the old canon, where it's like this is like Z canon, you know?
We could do it. We could do it in new canon. I mean, it wouldn't be officially canonical.
yeah, for
but
sure.
we would know the correct canon to use, and we wouldn't be like
Ross, I'm
all of a
sure.
sudden Luke fell in love.
I'm
with
sure our
Chewie
listeners
or something.
already know this, but I would never allow that. You know what a canon purist I am. Ugh.
True. Anyway, back to the news. So,
Whew.
our first morsel, our nugget of golden newsness, is there has been a new Vader comic announced. Now, when I read the release, it just sounded like they were just saying, "Hey, look, we're doing another Vader storyline." Kyler has a different theory.
I
though.
do have a different theory. First off, just as an aside, the cover art looks freaking amazing. Vader is on like this death horse with like horns and like a
You know
skull
what?
for
Yeah.
a face, holding a shield with the Imperial insignia and his lightsaber like a sword. I have no idea what is going to happen in this comic, but I cannot wait to find out. Oh my gosh. The cover art alone has sold me. Okay.
Maybe that's someone's, East Asian fanfic.
I'd be kind of down with that, actually. But now that that's out of my system, ooh. So my theory is this. Chuck Wendig, we talked about this a few weeks ago in the news. Chuck Wendig got canned by Marvel/Disney and is no longer associated with really anything Star Wars. He was working on a Darth Vader comic that was like 3 or 4 issues completed out of 5 or 6 issues total. They said, "Thank you for your service. Here's your paycheck. You're done."
Big on.
But it hadn't yet been announced. It was just he was working on a Vader comic. And we didn't even know that he was working on a Vader comic till he got fired and went to Twitter to rant some more and said I was working on a Vader comic, I believe.
Has it not been released yet then? That one
No,
he was
no.
working
This
on?
is coming out early in 2019.
But it is still coming
yeah.
out. Okay.
So, well, that's the thing is we didn't know. They said, as of right now, this project has been tabled, pending Disney making
Right.
decisions. I believe. Chris is checking on his phone to correct me if I'm wrong.
Maybe.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we get this, hey, by the way, here's a new Vader thing that we've been working on, and it's coming out beginning of next year. Like February or something like that, I believe, is when the first issue is, if I remember right. I haven't checked the article in a couple days, but it's early 2019.
Right.
And so I thought, well, maybe this is Chuck Wendig's Vader storyline that has been scrubbed of all things Chuck Wendig, and now Disney is saying, well, we already had most of the story written, let's just put it out there without his name because he's no longer affiliated.
Yeah.
That I mean, obviously I don't know, this is me speculating, but I think it probably could be.
If he wrote part of it, they would I mean, I don't know that legally they would have to credit him because they do own it.
Yeah.
But it
would
seems like
it would
the
be
thing to do.
uncouth to a degree, even beyond mega corporations. Like, I would have a hard time believing they would not credit him for what he did write of it, unless they did just drop that and this is a new storyline.
Yeah, I mean, and it could be that they said, since he was it's not like he's illustrating the story. Right. So they could keep all the artwork the same and just say, okay, let's just scrub the dialogue, get a different writer in here to actually put words in the word bubbles. That way Chuck can be free of this.
But a lot of the art is going to be modified, would have to be modified based on a new writer, because he's still writing the stuff that the artist has to draw. So,
yes, but it's not like Disney doesn't know the story. And Disney
from what
owns
I'm reading
the
here,
story.
I don't think Chuck Wendig's scripts ever got to artwork.
Oh, really?
Oh.
He wrote the scripts. The first
in which
two
case,
scripts
this is
it
totally something else, because by the
Yeah.
time it's ready to get published, of course, this has already been written and arted and inked and colored and printed and whatever else. You know what I mean? This is... Well, I don't know, maybe. Because the last issues aren't going to be fully done yet, because it takes 6 months to do a 6-issue, because they only release...
Yeah, and the artists that they
once a
did
month.
have lined up for Chuck Wendig's, for his series, are not the same artists that they have working on this.
So, okay, so this is probably different, and
This
I'm
is
just totally
probably
wrong.
something different.
Like all the dumb fan theories on the
writer
internet,
of
I'm
this
wrong.
is Dennis Hopeless, and the artist is Paolo Villanelli.
Well, there we go.
Yeah. Oh, on issue 1, and then Brian Level joining for issue.
Cool.
Congratulations on that, guys.
Yeah. So, do you think we'll ever see the Chuck Wendig stuff?
I think it will be cannibalized like everything else, and its bits and pieces reused elsewhere.
It'll be filed away for...
Yeah. I mean, that is Disney's MO, is...
We didn't use it, keep it on tap.
Yep.
Yeah.
Stick it in the fridge, we will make leftovers out of it
Well, I
later.
mean, and that's not just it. That's any writing. Like, anyone writing is, that's...
Yeah, but like Disney specifically has done this with the Clone Wars unfinished episodes from when Clone Wars was originally aired. Some of them got put into comics, like the Son of Dathomir series. Some of them got made into a book, like Dark Disciple. Some of them were reincorporated as like flashback kind of things in like Star Wars Rebels. And then, of course, some of them now are being brought back directly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Disney has... I mean, with Star Wars, everything is a possibility to come back.
Yeah.
If we don't use it right this second.
Yeah.
So, my guess is if they've already put the money and time and effort into making a Vader story, we're going to see that Vader story somewhere.
Quite possibly, yeah.
Anyway, well, there you go.
So, in continuing other reader morsel news, whatever my intro was earlier that I'm now forgetting.
Golden News Nugget.
Golden News Nugget,
that's
yes.
right. For our readers. Okay.
We're listening.
And this one's even a little
Chris, we
more...
got that good.
a little more exciting for the general masses if you're not a real comic book person. A third Thrawn book has been announced, coming out in summer 2019.
This would be the sequel to Thrawn Alliances that I happen to be holding in my hands right now by sheer coincidence.
Yep. Which is itself a sequel to the book Thrawn.
Thrawn, yes. Yep. Both by Timothy Zahn, who was the man who originally introduced Thrawn into the Star Wars canon.
And for all of you Thrawn fans out there, which presumably are going to be most of you, most people are fans of Thrawn, if you're a Star
I don't
Wars
know
fan.
this version of Thrawn, but I do like Thrawn, yes.
Chris and I are going to take the lead in a future episode talking about Thrawn, canon versus now Legends and comparing Timothy Zahn's previous works to the new ones and what's the same, what's different. It's going to be good. I have things to say, a lot of things to say about Thrawn Alliances, which we talked about before we started recording tonight, but we'll do it on air for you later.
And remind me, because I don't have the article in front of me and I've forgotten. The first two were prequels to the original trilogy, correct?
Yes.
And then the third one is going to be like during or after?
So here's the timeline.
Okay.
You have the book Thrawn, which takes Thrawn from his entrance into the Empire all the way to, hey, congratulations, here's your promotion to Grand Admiral. Which also the book ends like in the end of like season 2 of Rebels is where the book ends. But Thrawn, of course, doesn't show up in season 1 or 2 of Rebels.
Right.
So he's doing his stuff in the background. Season 3 of Rebels, you have Arinda Price, governor of Lothal, saying, hey, these rebels are causing a problem. I know a guy who could probably solve this problem. Let me go call my buddy Thrawn. And so then Thrawn shows up, having been just promoted to Grand Admiral of the 7th Fleet.
Okay.
So then we get Season 3 of Rebels, which ends with the Battle of Atollon, where the rebels should have been destroyed, but because of the Bendu, a giant force creature...
Finger quotes, will of the Force.
Yeah, giant finger quotes, not necessary, Deus Ex Machina. The rebels are saved. Thrawn's fleet is... Thrawn alliances...
You're just mad the rebels got away.
Well, no, actually, I thought it was awesome, but that's we'll save it for our Rebels show. But it was good. And then book 2 here, Thrawn Alliances, picks up shortly after the Battle of Atollon, where this previously undefeated Grand Admiral, who's, climbed the ranks, is now everyone's going, well, geez, dude, you had them pinned down on the planet, their fleet was locked up with interdictors. Please explain how again they got away? Mastermind, So he's kind of on rocky terms, and then he and Vader...
Are we the baddies?
Yeah, are we the baddies? Yeah, exactly. So basically, because there is a time jump between the season finale of Episode 3 and the season premiere of Episode 4. There is an in-universe time gap.
Right.
That time gap is filled by Thrawn Alliances. He and Vader have to kind of go on a little buddy cop mission together. And
it's also flashing back to them working together in the
And
Clone
it also
Wars.
flashes back to a time when Thrawn met Anakin Skywalker in the Clone Wars. So there's... Anyway, further discussion on that for that Thrawn episode. But anyway, so then Season 4 picks up... Season 4 of Rebels picks up then after this book, presumably.
Right.
And then at the end of Season 4 of Rebels, spoiler alert, Thrawn gets sent packing to the unknown regions again. So presumably this book, this next book, what is it? What's it called? I can't remember what it's called, this next one.
Looking it up.
It's like treachery or something like that, or treason. Treason, that's what it is. Thrawn, treason, presumably has to take place before Season 4 of Rebels ends, because then Thrawn is sort of out of the picture. So who knows? Who knows?
Well, I think it wouldn't necessarily have to be to coincide with Rebels, just because, Thrawn can just go and do whatever he wants at this point.
True, and that would be a bold move by Disney to say, here, Timothy Zahn, why don't you go write an entire novel about the unknown regions?
That would be very nice.
With Thrawn in it, by the way. That would be pretty bold.
But if you're going to have anyone do that, you
it would be Timothy
Zahn.
Zahn. I agree. I just don't think that's going to be the case. I think it will be because Thrawn isn't always around in Season 4. Mm-hmm. They kind of bring Price back to the forefront, because Price was sort of in the forefront in Season 2, and then with Vader as well, and then Season 3 is like, here's all about Thrawn, every episode is Thrawn, which was great, because Thrawn's awesome. But then Season 4 is, Thrawn is busy with other stuff, because he's a Grand Admiral, who doesn't always have time to deal with a local rebellion. So there's a lot more of Price doing her stuff. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I think there will be a lot of what is happening to Thrawn that we don't see in Rebels. In the Empire's, political hierarchy,
Because the unknown regions are where the First Order came from.
Yes.
Right? I'm wondering if they're trying to give...
To build up to that or something?
Because we don't have anything else set there, right? We know that it's a thing in the galaxy, the unknown regions, but...
It's mentioned a couple times, in the Aftermath books, Admiral Sloane, follows the coordinates to the Emperor's, secret hideout in the unknown regions, and gets there and sees a Super Star Destroyer, and is like, ha-ha! Fleet!
Right.
And then chapter ends. Okay, great. So it's we've had, teeny little glimpses, a page here and there, a chapter... But we've not had, a full setting.
But for now, the unknown regions remain largely unknown.
Because I wonder if maybe part of the reason why they are doing this and sending Thrawn back there is just so we can now see this new region of space that we haven't seen before.
It would be cool. There was material in Thrawn Alliances that I thought that could make for an interesting trilogy set after the sequel trilogy. That doesn't have anything to do with the Skywalkers, but it's just here's a domino that got knocked over way back when, and it's finally reached this part of the galaxy. And like, so that could be, I could see, like, there's Timothy Zahn mentions some different races besides the Chiss that inhabit the unknown regions that, you know, they have their own problems, their own reasons for doing what they're doing and expanding and fighting and something like that. There could be sort of one of those, you know, the Chiss or these other people, you know, trigger this event or whatever that sort of makes their war spill out into the known regions. Or like, there could be some potential there, but this is just me spitballing here. I could see it that way, but there's also not anything more to support that idea than the fact that it could happen, because anything could happen. I guess it's a fictional universe.
Random question.
Yeah, who knows?
How long do Chiss live? What's the average lifespan of the race?
I want to say comparable to humans, a century or so.
I was hoping to use that as a basis for a stupid fan theory.
Oh.
Thrawn shows up in episode 9! Yes!
I would be more bothered than that. Well, no,
Kyler,
maybe not more than Darth Maul.
I told you it was a joke. I told you it was a joke and you're still considering it. No, don't consider it. It's not going to happen.
He could, in theory, be there, but he would be super dang old. Like, he would make Snoke look like in his prime.
Okay, wait. I'm going to divert this episode for a moment.
Yeah, it's your turn.
Who of roughly that age would we want to play Admiral Thrawn? If he were to show up in episode 9?
No! Ian McDiarmid. No.
I don't think
no.
you're allowed to be part of X-Men and Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, okay?
Wait.
Pick two.
Who do you think? No, Ian McDiarmid, the Emperor.
Yeah.
Oh, Ian McDiarmid.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was
No,
thinking,
you were thinking
I was
Ian
thinking
McKellen.
Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
My bad.
He
Although-
doesn't. He would be a killer actor, but he wouldn't. I don't think he has the right.
He's
look
not
for
the Thrawn, yeah.
I could actually see Jean-Luc Picard. What's his name?
Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart. I could see him
Actually.
because he's got the acting chops definitely, and like brings that gravitas. You know,
I would love to see Patrick Stewart play a genuine bad guy.
he would be so
I know
cool.
he played Scrooge in that one version of Christmas Carol, but and you know he was solid because it's
Patrick Stewart.
freaking
Yeah,
Stewart, but yeah, I would love to see him play a genuine. But you know, Thrawn's not the evilest of evil villains. He's just
cold and calculated, which I love.
Well, what makes him terrifying is that he's so freaking competent and
Yeah.
just this implacable force, basically. But I'm looking up this actor because I can never remember his name.
But I don't know. That's a good question, Ross. Chris asked the question. That's a good question, though. Who would play him?
But Ross, it is a good question. Just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm informing Ross that Chris's question was indeed good.
Okay, I'll write that down. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. That's oh man, who are?
Yeah, I'm trying to sort through actors
Okay.
who could be in that age range.
Okay, he's a little young to play him, and I don't particularly care for his most famous role, but Joseph Fiennes, who played Voldemort.
Oh.
I
I don't
Joseph
like
Fiennes.
Voldemort. I don't like Harry Potter, but he's a good actor. I've seen him he's in a Shakespeare movie.
Yeah, he is an amazing actor.
Oh crap, what is it? Not Titus. Crap, now I can't think of what it is. Joseph Fiennes did a Shakespeare movie, and he plays the main character in it, who is sort of the hero who becomes the villain, and it's fantastic. He is so dang good. Oh man, I wish I could remember that movie now. Dang it! Now I'm gonna have to get on my phone.
Yeah. So I think my leading choice would be Richard E. Grant.
Oh. Isn't
Oh!
he already in Star Wars?
I think he did just get cast. Now that you
Yes,
mention
he's
it,
just.
so I guess that wouldn't work.
That
But
was in our news. a
Maybe
little while
he's
ago.
Thrawn. He's in episode 9, guys. Because yeah, Richard E. Grant is one heck of a villain. The dude is awesome. And,
Oh dang it!
which
no,
is great
sorry,
because
yeah.
he's going to be in episode 9. So whatever he's doing, I look forward to seeing him there because he's also a good guy when he wants to be. When someone wants him to be, he gets cast that way. But yeah, he is a great actor. That it's like
Not
everybody.
Joseph Fiennes,
One of those.
excuse me, Ralph
Fiennes. I was going to say.
Sorry,
I thought that was.
Joseph Fiennes is another great actor who's even younger and would not make a good Thrawn.
Yeah.
But great actor.
Ralph
Sorry.
would be a little young.
Ralph
for that,
Fiennes,
yes.
yeah, that's
but
who I was
he
thinking of.
definitely could summon the gravitas. But yeah, Richard Grant would be so maybe he is in episode 9. I forgot about that.
If
so.
that happens,
That would be incredible.
Yeah.
I'll pause.
Richard E. Grant-
Coriolanus, that's the movie. 2011, Coriolanus. is the Shakespeare play adapted for film.
Right.
Ralph Fiennes is in it. He plays the titular character, Coriolanus, who starts off as this hero of Rome and ends up laying waste to Rome by the end. It's fantastic. Ugh.
Yeah.
Set
Ralph
in the
Fiennes
modern
is-
era, like almost like he's like Fidel Castro or something. Like
Oh.
becomes this warlord kind of. It's very good.
Also known as the man who took over for Judi Dench as M in the Bond movies.
Yeah, he's quite good. He's also in a
and, of course,
great.
Voldemort.
He's in a great pair of movies called The Best Marigold Hotel and The Second Best Marigold Hotel.
Yes,
He is so great in that too. Those are both charming movies. Take your significant other to see them.
So Richard E. Grant is one of those people that everybody recognizes his face. They don't necessarily know his name. He is Dr. Rice, one of the main bad guys in Logan. He is in Game of Thrones for a couple episodes as I can't remember how to actually pronounce this. I believe it's Isambaro. He is in Downton Abbey as Simon Bricker. He is in Doctor Who as the Great Intelligence, as the more corporeal manifestation of the Great Intelligence. Is probably where a lot of more geeky people will recognize him first off. He's in. I just spotted him in Penelope, with Christina Ricci as the girl with the pig nose.
That's such a cute show. I
It
love
is
that.
adorable. I love that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's her dad in that. My wife
Yeah.
was watching that.
yeah,
I came in the
that's
other day and
right.
I was like, "Holy crap! It's Richard E. Grant."
Yeah. No, here's another person, and unfortunately he could never be Thrawn because he's already been cast in Star Wars. But Christopher Plummer, I think,
yeah.
would be a good Thrawn.
love-
But he's already Laura Santeca,
Yeah.
so that's out.
And I think, getting into Star Wars at all is quite the achievement.
Yeah.
I think it's more than anyone has a right to hope for to be cast more than once, unless you are Warwick Davis. Yes.
Yeah, he's the exception that proves the rule.
Yes. Warwick Davis is the John
And-
Ratzenberger for the Star
Yeah.
Wars movies. And
I was gonna say Anthony Daniels, and I was like, wait, no, but he's playing the same character every time,
Yeah.
so that doesn't count. Yeah, no. Warwick Davis, though, man,
yeah.
what a hero, man. He's been in like 6 different Star Wars movies as a different character each time, with his face visible in most of them.
Yep.
Like, dude, pat yourself on the back.
I can only think of 2 where you can see his face.
You see him in Han Solo
Right.
as
Yeah.
the what's his face.
As
You
the-
see him in Episode 1 in the
Right.
crowd.
Yeah,
Right.
he's sitting with Watto, and
He
those are the 2 I can
is-
think of.
I don't remember seeing his face any other time. Though.
Oh,
He is you see him covered in makeup as the guy feeding coins into BB-8
Is it
in
In Episode
feeding,
8.
or is it? I thought it was the one you see his mouth open. He has a really fat mouth and tongue.
yeah.
because
I
I
don't
think the
remember.
one that's actually feeding
Is
coins into
CGI.
is CG.
Yeah.
Is it? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
I just knew he was in
Um,
there in the casino. I thought
In
that was
Rogue
him.
I had
One,
always-
he's the short guy who like sets the ambush on the tank when Jin meets the partisans.
Oh, I didn't know he was in
He's
Rogue
the
One.
short, yeah.
Ah.
Yep, he's a short guy in there.
In
then
Jedi, he's
he's
Wicket.
of course Wicket,
Yeah.
and then
Yes.
Episode 2, who is he? And 3, who is he?
I don't remember.
I don't know
Shoot.
if he's in there. Is he in
No.
also even in the sequels in 7 and 8? Well, yeah,
Yeah.
obviously in
Yeah, he
definitely,
is.
duh. He's in the casino,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I don't know about.
Anyway,
Force Awakens.
Anyway, Warwick Davis is amazing.
Warwick
I
Davis
love
is
him.
awesome. He also plays Rook, Thrawn's Nogri
Oh, does he?
assassin
Yeah.
in Rebels.
Does he really?
Yep, he's the voice. That's obviously modulated and stuff, but
Yeah.
once you know that it's Warwick Davis and you listen to the voice, you're like, oh, of course it's Warwick Davis. I can hear it now. Like, it's awesome. Because he's got that very peculiar, like, British,
Yes.
nasally a little bit. You're like, it's very distinctly
Yeah.
like when you hear Warwick
For
Davis'
those of you
voice,
who are
you know it.
confused, Warwick Davis, often best known for his role as Willow.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that too. Which I don't particularly like Willow. I realize I'm an outsider on this issue, so
Oh, it's one of those kitschy.
I think you had to be
it's a cult
raised on it,
classic.
and I wasn't.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say.
because
Yeah.
like my wife grew up watching it as a kid, and she loved Willow. I didn't learn about Willow till I was
Until your wife
either
introduced you
late
to
in
it?
high school or maybe after high school. Like I was like 17, 18 when I saw Willow for the first time, and I was like, I can tell that in the 80s this would have been fantastic.
Yeah,
However,
That's fair. That would be a rough age to be introduced to that.
so yeah.
But yes, you might know him from there.
Ooh.
He's delightful.
Hey, so that was a fun meander away from the news, and not anywhere closer to our topic at hand. Are we ready to go? Just as a recap, new Vader comic, new Thrawn book. That's where we were supposed to be.
Speculation on Richard E. Grant's role in episode 9.
Yeah. Okay,
And
right?
wild, never going to be true fan theories.
No, absolutely
So-
not. I don't even want it to be, but
So hopefully everyone else is no longer lost, because I found myself lost for a minute and had to backtrack.
yeah, no, that's legit.
Okay. Whew. Now we're ready to talk about our episode.
Yes.
Which
wait,
itself... yeah. Go ahead, Chris. No, this episode itself is going to be somewhat of a meander.
Yes, that's why I didn't feel bad about doing this earlier.
So we are talking about relative power among some of our great protagonists in Star Wars.
Protag slash
Yeah,
frequent antagonists.
Sorry.
Yes.
That's what I mean
Yeah.
by protagonists, is like the main guys, right?
Yes.
So Vader, Luke,
The Skywalkers,
the Skywalkers,
and Rey.
Ray.
Maybe
yeah.
we'll
so
toss Snoke in there.
Ben
or
Solo
something.
and
We'll see.
Rey.
Yeah.
I think like Obi-Wan maybe could be thrown in there.
Yeah,
'cause
we can
Anakin
toss
and Vader.
Leia. Toss Leia in. Like
So,
we don't have a
yeah.
lot to go on with Leia's force ability, but we can talk about
So
it.
yeah, Ross, before we even started recording the podcast, that's how far back this episode goes. Ross put
All
on our little
those
notes.
months ago.
Yeah.
Yep, all those episodes ago. Ross had the idea, like, well, who's the most powerful? Who, not necessarily who would win in a fight, because we've already done a villains bracket.
Yeah,
And
and we're going to
we've-
do a hero.
We've got a
bracket.
hero bracket coming up. Yep. But just sheer like magnitude of force power or whatever.
Mhm.
Who's got
because
the
we
most
know
chops.
that the Skywalkers are unprecedentedly powerful in the Force, and that does not appear to be necessarily diminishing or waning over time.
Yeah, their bloodline is not being diluted.
Yes. And then you have Rey, who is not even part of the bloodline, and no, she's not. And
Yeah, shut your dumb fan theories up. She's a nobody.
for now, without anything from episode 9 to contradict that, I'm going on the assumption that she is not.
Yeah, I hope she stays that way.
Yes.
J.J. Abrams, if you're listening, keep her a nothing.
Yeah. But we also have the line from Snoke when he's talking to Kylo and Rey, talking about how when someone comes up on one side of the Force, something on the other side. has to come up
Balance
to
has been brought to the Force.
Yeah, and so
essentially.
I mean, you have this.
So that's the idea, I think, behind Rey's power is that she is the balance to Kylo,
Right.
and that is why she's so powerful. So
Which means
she definitely merits a
when
spot in
she
this debate.
eventually
Yes.
kills Kylo, she will wink out of existence.
That would be entertaining.
From nothing
But
to nothing.
I don't think they're going to kill him. I think
don't know.
Kylo's story is a redemption story.
I think that
I think it's Vader's
I think
story.
that the fact that is something we could debate so earnestly is testament to how well they're writing it. But
Yeah.
All right, we'll save that for a What's Going to Happen in Episode 9 show.
no, we're
Hold
not
on,
doing
let me
No.
type that in.
I don't know if we want to do an entire episode based on
We'll do a Nerf
speculation
night.
about future. Maybe.
That will, I'm surely,
But so
go into length for an
yeah,
episode.
do we want to just like talk about the individual abilities we see from each of them, like you said? And
Sure.
just- So the OG,
Yeah.
Darth Vader, is
Darth
the very first
Vader.
person
Woo!
we see manifesting any force powers of any sort.
That is true, actually. He's the very first
Yes,
Force user
Yeah.
we see.
and he was powerful, and we got that established. But then the prequels jumped back and went, no, you don't get just how powerful these Skywalkers are. Let's do a whole thing with the virgin birth and everything, and make this really clear
Yeah.
how chosen he is.
Yep.
So let's start with that. He's a virgin birth, apparently,
Yeah.
unless Shmi is just lying to all of us. But I kind of doubt that at this point.
His daddy is the Force.
The
Oh.
Force / the nefarious workings of Darth Sidious. Who knows?
That's actually a fan theory that I headcanon. It's like, that's way more plausible.
That was in the prequels. That was blatant enough for me that I don't even consider it a theory. I'm just like, what do you mean it's a theory? It's you have the first episode 1 where we explain there was no father. She just conceived and bore a child of the Force, apparently, according to the Jedi. And then episode 3, we get Ian McDiarmid talking to Anakin and saying that. Talking about Darth Plagueis the Wise, who was so powerful that he could even use the Force to create life. And I was
And
like,
I've
well,
learned
there
the
we go.
secrets.
That's a
See,
nice little bow.
Here's
there.
the thing: is that it's just way too convenient for their stop on Tatooine. Had that Nubian cruiser,
Force moves in mysterious ways, Ross.
had that Nubian cruiser
That's-
not
The Force
sprung a leak-
wills
No.
as the Force
That is
wheels or
incredibly
something.
convenient. It
The
is
wheel
not
weaves as
any
the
more
wheel
convenient
wills.
than any number of incidents
Yeah.
throughout all of Star Wars in the movies alone.
I don't care how Sithy Darth Sidious is; he could not have made that happen.
He could
Why
have
not?
created Anakin with the plan of bringing him forward himself at some point.
And just got lucky that the
the
Qui-Gon found him.
Jedi got unlucky that
No,
the
you know-
Jedi found him first.
No.
But either way, I'm like, that is nowhere near any more implausible than any number of things that happen
No,
throughout all the movies.
that's worse
Maybe we
than
should do
my-
an episode where we compare all the ludicrously implausible things that happen throughout Star
I
Wars.
would
Chris,
love
that would be fun.
that
Chris,
episode.
Putting that on the list right now. It's on the
Okay,
list.
there it is. It's on the list. There we go.
That is worse than my Thrawn is going to be in Episode 9 theory.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
think
pretty
so.
blatant.
Sidious impregnating through whatever means Shmi. No,
Right,
I
because
do
in a
wonder
galaxy far, far away, there's no possible way they could have such thing as in vitro fertilization while the
no,
mother's
it's not.
unconscious.
It's not even that. It's the whole idea that Sidious was like, okay, we're going to start this Force, Virgins in the Force here, and then the Jedi will find it for sure.
No, I don't
Because
think
he could not have done
No,
anything. To
I don't think
manipulate
I
that.
think Chris is right.
No,
don't
I
think
do.
he's
I do
intended
wonder.
to-
I have always wondered that because I feel like that is implied to a point of being a very clear authorial intent. Like that was very clearly, deliberately put there, in my opinion. However, it does immediately raise the question of why in the world did he choose some random slave on Tatooine
I could
for this?
see. Here's my explanation. He's not sure if it's going to work, so let's try this on a slave in Tatooine, far away from the prying eyes of the Republic, where the Jedi don't really come frequently, so they're not going to do it.
But
And if she dies because of something, who cares? She's a slave.
But it still raises a further question to me of why this random slave owned by this junkyard owner, like,
Well,
it's there, he has no control there. You know, there's no control over what's happening. It is an incredibly long shot.
Yeah.
I still insist not any
when-
further than
it
that.
would have been so much easier for him to do.
However,
I'm
We've got to
fixing
save
your
this
plan.
for the other episode.
It would have been so much easier for him to find some, gutter rat on the lower levels of Coruscant than to go out into Tatooine. Even though it is close to the planet that he's a senator of. And then it's easier for to magically orchestrate a Jedi finding this Virgins in the Force.
Actually, no. Now that you bring it up, Palpatine is from Naboo.
Which apparently is quite
and
close to
Tatooine
Tatooine.
is
Sure,
like
it's right there.
It's next door neighbor, so
But-
that makes it even more convenient.
No.
Anytime the
Anyway,
Republic comes,
we will save this for that episode
Okay,
for the
back on track.
improbabilities.
Force
Backing
abilities.
up, Vader is born of the Force.
Yes.
Anakin Skywalker is apparently born of the Force some way or another. Either that or Shmi just had really one whacked out night. That she can't remember.
She got roofied.
Yeah,
Doesn't remember.
and that's really unfortunate,
Yeah.
and she just explained it away as that.
Sure.
But
Sure.
either, given the fact that he is ludicrously powerful in the Force, I think it's
Let's
safe
do
to
it.
go with conceived of the Force. So, he's our pseudo-Jesus-y figure here, and he is mega powerful, but we don't see a lot of things that really make his power stand out from everyone else's, at least in the movies. There are a lot of things in more extended canon that you see. Within the movies, we see that he is a pod racing pilot at a very young age.
Yeah,
so he's got the speed and
exceptional
reflexes.
Which is supposed to be impossible for humans.
Yeah, supposed to be impossible for
Barring
humans.
Jedi.
Yeah, as far as we know, though as far as I know, we don't know of any Jedi who have actually done it either. And then we also have his performance in the Battle of Naboo, which was like implied to be guided by the Force if you read the book in particular.
Yeah,
It's still pretty weird.
it
Yeah.
looks more like dumb luck, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, it was.
He does, with his Force abilities, teach us that spinning is a good trick.
So you're willing to
Yeah.
think that
Oh, here goes Ross again.
you're willing to think that Anakin in the pod is dumb luck, but still believe that
No,
Sidious
the
made this
official
happen.
explanation for that is that he was being guided using the Force to pull that off,
Is
even
that-
though he didn't
is
really
that-
know what he was doing.
Is that current canon or is that
That's
Legends?
I mean, it's in the movies that he is.
It is in the
using
novelization
Force
of the
and
movie,
whatever.
which
Yeah.
It's
I don't
not
know
in
if
the movies that he doesn't sort of force things there.
they don't
Well,
really make
not
it
that
clear.
he's.
no.
They don't make it clear, but it is implied that he's this great child of the Force.
The implication, and
He's-
it's made clearer in the book, is that it was his performance in that battle that convinced the Jedi Council to allow him to be
And I
trained,
would say
Okay.
this as well
because
in the
he
movie.
was using the Force apparently.
There is
You
a-
guys are reading between
there's a
so many
clear-
lines
No, but that's the thing.
There's
It's
a
pretty
clear
clearly spelled out in the
correlation
book.
in the book.
that
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
making in the movie. There's a correlation between his performance in the final battle as a star pilot and pod racing. That it's like he's
Yeah.
using what he's learned as a pod racer
Right.
in
Yeah.
that.
And it's also
it has made clear and is established earlier in the movie that he is successful in the pod racing because he relies on the Force.
Yeah.
Though he doesn't realize that's
and
what it's called.
we
and
do
that's what he's
have
doing.
the fact that in the movie they don't ever quite make it clear, but they do reference, I believe, just that the reason he did get approved for training after that all that happened, but they never say, well, because he did that. It's
Right.
just because of that, and is never specified in any way.
But see,
now we're going to allow him to be trained, even though
save it for
Yoda
the
didn't
episode.
approve it. But and it is, it's all a mess. It's one of the many improbable things in Star Wars. But the official explanation for that in the book is that he was being guided by the Force. Like if you read the scene, it's literally him like jerking to the side because he thought he saw something over there that needed to be shot, and it shoots in that direction and ends up blowing up the ship, basically the control ship. And so the idea is like the Force was guiding him to shoot there or whatever. But anyway, he's a great pilot from an unusually young age. He's the implication is also that his skill with mechanics is somehow guided by the Force.
Oh, is that? No, I thought that was just like he's just
naturally gifted.
Excuse me.
I do not know of any other situation where it's implied that the Force makes someone good with machines. So I buy that.
Rey. That's kind of been the theory going around, even though both of them kind of grew up in a junkyard, so they would be around the mechanics, But that's what a lot of people online were theorizing, that the Force was making her good.
That's fair.
Falcon. So,
That could be, that could definitely be an instance of that, if that is a thing. But I do think that is what they were going
We
for
do
with
know
the
that
9-year-old
Luke has
building
some
a functioning
proficiency.
protocol droid from scraps.
We also know that Luke has some proficiency with power converters.
He does. He's quite fond of them. So that's in episode 1. In episode 2, we see him using the Force. I don't know how much he does that. Like there is the moment fighting Dooku.
In episode 2.
I'm going to go with that moment. I referenced this when we were talking
so we're
about
moving
it
on to
earlier.
episode 2, though, right?
And I'm
No, it starts way before then.
Well, but
Very-
this is the big one that jumped to my head that I'm going to reference real quick. Is
I was just going to go
when
through the
he's
movie.
fighting Dooku. I mentioned this in an earlier episode where in the book that R.A. Salvatore wrote, you have that moment that I loved where he's fighting Dooku and Dooku goes to circle around him and just runs into this wall of Force and is just like, holy freaking crap, this kid is powerful. And I liked that because it was like, yes, he's supposed to be freaking powerful, and there we have an instance of that. What were you gonna?
So early on, we see that he's incredibly sensitive to danger around him.
Yeah.
Right when he's protecting Padme, he
That's
immediately
true.
he senses it before Obi-Wan does, and he's not as refined as Obi-Wan.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then he's obviously extremely proficient with the lightsaber. He's able to bisect and flick off of Padme's body 2 killer centipedes without even singeing her like super sheer
not even conveniently slicing part of her nightrobe.
Yeah,
come
no
on,
kidding.
Lucas.
Yeah.
you already
later.
tore half of her uniform or her clothing off later. Why couldn't you do it there too?
Yeah.
Gosh.
So I mean, he's pretty deft at that. His dexterity score, we would say in D&D, is fairly high.
Yeah.
He has. So after that, he's. We see more of him being a great pilot.
Yeah.
And more of him being dexterous as well, leaping from cab to cab to cab.
Yeah. And he apparently does it often with Obi-Wan's comment of, I hate it when he does this.
Yeah, apparently, that's a thing that he does. Yeah. He also, again, really good sensitivity with the Force. He's able, out of all those, I mean, realistically, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of beings within just a small vicinity on Coruscant, he's able to pick out exactly which speeder it is, where it's coming from, when he needs to jump to land. Like, that's pretty precise, like, force-feely, tentacles out there in the ether.
That's fair. Yeah.
Then, after that, we leave Coruscant and go to
Naboo, where we see his super force-enhanced flirting skills.
which is apparently a Force's detriment to that.
Just imagine how bad he would have been without the Force.
Or maybe, like, since the Force is about balance, it's like, we will totally boost you in all these other stats, but your charisma is, like, at negative
No,
20.
it's because he's always hanging around with Obi-Wan, and so Obi-Wan is the charisma guy.
Yeah,
and Anakin's got everything else, and so
Yep.
Obi-Wan's like, hello there.
Yeah. Obi-Wan can take me to dinner anytime. By the way, Indiana, I hope you saw that tweet that I put out. That's what I tweeted from our from the podcast Twitter account. I was like, "Hey, to our Indiana user," and it was just a GIF of Obi-Wan popping up. Hello. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did.
So then
funny.
we see anything else in episode 2 that stands out. I can't think of.
Okay, so the
we get
arena
to the
battle. Yeah, so we
Yeah.
get to Geonosis basically. He sucks it up on Naboo. Just nat one after nat one after nat one on those diplomacy checks.
Well, apparently not, because
Oh,
he was getting nat 2s. She was getting nat
There we
1s.
go. That's fair.
You have
He was getting nat 2s with like a -10 penalty, but she still
was
rolled
getting
nat
nat
1s,
ones, yes.
so still failed.
you do have Anakin tracking down his mother.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Which-
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's...
It
yeah.
depends on how much information you're implied that he's picking up for people. He does talk to those Jawas, but he leaves without getting any information from
No,
Klieg.
he talks to Klieg first. That's where he finds out and like
She
gets
was
the
taken
general
by-
direction.
But he doesn't. Well,
He
at least not in the
does.
movie.
and
he
then
doesn't
just
say,
zeroes down.
He
on
does.
her, yeah.
He tells him where it is in the movie.
It's been a while.
Is that But he doesn't give a direction. He just says we just hunted down.
Yeah,
some...
I don't think he
I'm
does.
pretty
yeah.
sure he tells him not a direction, not like, oh, head north, but I think he says like a location like the Dune Sea or something like that. I can't remember.
that
He
might
doesn't
be.
say the
Well,
Dune
but-
Sea, but he says like a location, which Anakin as a native of the area would know. So then he's going out there, and then he asks the Jawas when he gets more specific,
Closer,
hey, have you seen a particular set of Tusken Raiders, whatever. But regardless, I think it's safe to say there probably is some Force tentacle feeding this going out there.
I
trying
would
to find
also
them.
say, like, this isn't really dwelled upon, but given how well we've seen various Jedi taking on various groups of people, slaughtering an entire tribe of sand people single-handedly
It's fairly
and coming out
impressive.
apparently unscathed,
Yeah.
that is some pretty intense stuff.
Well, and not just sand people, but they had their like little vicious dog
Little
thingies,
dogs.
their
Yeah,
dog
yeah.
lizards, whatever they are.
yeah.
So that is,
Of course,
that's very impressive.
Then
And
that's
Tusken
less
Raiders,
impressive
too, are-
after, losing a fight with a factory just after that.
Way to undercut it, Lucas.
He spent all of his mana.
Yeah, he'd used up all his luck
his
points.
Yeah,
Possibility.
all his spell slots were expended.
Yes.
So.
No luck rerolls left for
Yeah,
the day.
exactly. Boy, we hope you nerds are getting all of those references. All of his upgrade cards were tapped.
Yeah.
Or exhausted.
And then in the arena, I don't remember anything enormously impressive with his force usage there.
He does calm down the beast,
Yeah,
That's true. That's true. I forgot that.
Nexu.
the Reek, actually.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, the Nexu's the kitty.
I'm gonna
Yep.
lose
Yes.
in our next episode.
You have the Acklay, the Nexu, and the Reek. The
I-
Acklay is the crab. The
Yeah.
Nexu is the
The
kitty, the
tiger,
bat.
The
Yeah.
kitty, yeah, and the Reek is the
Apparently,
rhino.
so we have like man face head guy,
Yeah.
or yeah. Apparently, the Nexu's like project name was literally Bad Kitty. Yeah.
Bad
And then-
Kitty is a lesser known friend of Bad Wolf from Dark.
Yeah, and then you
I
have
got
the
that.
Reek, which my wife couldn't remember the name of, and she said the mutated rhinoceros.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
Yep.
the mutant rhino.
So yeah,
So
there
he
you
does
go.
calm that
Yeah.
thing down, and basically, I mean, he kind of converts it.
Yeah,
In
that's
game
fair.
terms.
That is pretty
'Cause
legit.
it does
force
become his
usage
mount.
there.
That is true.
And
yeah.
that is one of the only instances we actually see Anakin use the Force in any sort of mind affecting or calming
Yeah.
usage. Like,
Do you guys want to hear something crazy about the Reek?
Sure.
sure.
It's a vegetarian that they starved to the point it becomes bloodthirsty and will eat meat.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's intense. The
Yeah.
Geonosians are bad dudes.
Yeah.
And dudettes, I assume.
How about that?
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go.
Anyway. And so then they.
We're not a vegetarian, an herbivore. God, look at me being
Yeah.
adequate.
Then he was skilled enough to be one of the final survivors in the ring.
Arena battle,
In
which
the
is
arena battle.
okay, which is impressive in and of
statistically.
itself.
Yeah, is impressive.
200 Jedi are sent into that arena battle, and like a couple
Couple
dozen
dozen,
make
yeah.
it out.
Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive.
And then they go after Dooku. He is impetuous and gets lightninged, but then takes on Dooku by himself
And loses
for
a
a bit.
hand.
There is
And loses a
also
hand.
another point I was thinking of. He instructs the pilot where to hit some of the ships on their fly chasing
Oh
Dooku.
yeah, that's true. He
He
does.
tells the pilot to hit right above the fuel cells. why didn't anyone else know that? Maybe it was Anakin being Force sensitive.
Or maybe
just
it's
really good with
him
machines,
just
or-
being good with machines and
Yeah.
understanding, hey, I can see where the fuel cells are connecting. That's a weak point. Hey, why
Yeah.
don't you hit that there?
Maybe.
I could see that just being like
Yeah.
experience
It,
rather
it
than...
could be one or the other, sure, but still.
And
Yeah.
then in the movie itself, there's not a lot to recommend his performance against Dooku. It's mainly in the book there, and that
Yeah.
moment that I highlighted that I like, where Dooku force thrusts him back and then just has that moment of.
When was the book written?
It was written to release like 2 weeks before the movie or
Yeah.
something, or a month before.
So no longer canon.
No longer canon.
Is it not
Yeah.
officially?
Anything before the purchase of Disney is not canon.
Even though it's affiliated with the movie. Yeah. Okay.
Because they're re-novelizing the movies.
Oh yeah, of
now.
course they are.
I mean, I haven't read any of them because I'm like, I will stick with the original source material, thank you. So like, I don't get so I get all the Star Wars comics except for comicizations
Yes.
of novels or movies.
Yeah.
And I buy all the novels except for the novelizations of the movies because I already have the movie. That's the original source.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good enough.
Fair.
But yeah, they are rewriting like all the movie novels
Fair.
and putting them in comics too, like Return of the Jedi, like the original trilogy
Well,
has been getting
Comicization of movies and or novelizations of movies
Yeah.
is also nothing new, but
comics.
okay, so that's episode 2. Episode 3,
Yeah.
we see more fancy flying. We see him take on Dooku with some impressive
actually,
skill.
episode 2, the elevator scene, Obi-Wan mentioned something that is impressive. Anakin saved Obi-Wan from a nest of Gundarks, which we see later in the Clone Wars, which happens in between 2 and 3, that they again fall into a nest of Gundarks. Gundarks are not small.
Yeah.
They are
Yeah.
quite large. We're talking probably, honestly, close to 12 feet tall, like 10 to 12 feet tall. Very, very powerful. Imagine like the build of a gorilla,
Yeah.
Yeah,
only
I've seen
with
Gundarks,
even
yeah.
longer. Well, I know.
Well, but yeah, for the
listeners,
audience, of
but
course.
even longer back legs, so that they can actually kind of like gallop almost.
Mhm.
But you have those really powerful forearms,
Yeah.
and then make it like 10 feet tall. So like that's not nothing, and they've got really sharp like beaks and teeth and really sharp claws and stuff. So to save your master from a nest of these
Well,
things,
But I'm not sure that's really
We don't know
admissible.
what happened, but it is.
we don't know what
Because
happened, but
save could be Obi-Wan was fighting the Gundarks and Anakin backed him up. You can still say that's
sure,
save,
but regardless, it's going to take some skill, likely force enhanced, to
Yeah.
extract your master from a nest of Gundarks
Yeah, that's
safely.
right.
But good
okay.
point that we don't know exactly what happened.
So we see some impressive flying at the beginning of episode 3.
Very impressive,
Yes.
and like precision flying when he's scraping the buzz droids
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
Like, dang, I honestly, in universe, I can't think of anyone else, Jedi included, that could have done that besides Anakin Skywalker.
I could buy Han Solo after what they've shown us in Solo and stuff, but
with that sort of precision.
But
no.
with that
if he was in that
precision-
ship, yes, I could buy it. Not in the Falcon, no, that thing's too bulky and too irregular.
Yeah,
I
like,
have too many
but
blind spots.
but we've got to admit, like, that is
it is impressive. sure,
absolutely like tens all around, flying there. And then not to mention too, just grand crash landing, not ideal, but getting into Grievous's
yeah. Well,
flagship.
and
the
I think
invisible hand.
it's a nice
Uh,
demonstration between how he and Obi-Wan both land that ship, where
Yeah.
they land and then just
Boost
jump
out,
of
yeah,
the
flip in the air, catch
Actually,
droids on land.
we were
Yeah.
watching this today, actually. Obi-Wan boosts out.
Oh, is it
Anakin's
Obi-Wan?
not as worried, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So.
Because Obi-Wan, I feel like, was
I
just like...
had a moment where I was like,
"Get
that
me
was
outta
Anakin,
here."
wasn't it? Maybe it wasn't.
No, it
I
was
shouldn't say
Obi-Wan.
this. No,
Because he
Obi-Wan
hates
jumps out.
flying.
And after
Now I'm
that
embarrassed.
crash landing, sure, I would be ready to get out of the ship, too.
Yeah. So we see his fight with Dooku, which he wins quite handily
Yes, he does.
at that point in his career. And there's some other acrobatics and stuff on the ship, but nothing that I'm like is hugely stand out. And then he ends up going. Where does he go after? Let's see. Obi-Wan gets sent off to Utapau, while Anakin.
We didn't get that far in our viewing today, so I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, it's been a while, man.
So,
Okay, so there's the Battle of Coruscant, obviously, which
Yeah.
quite a lot of good saber work on his
Yeah.
part, as well as Obi-Wan, of course. I mean, Anakin.
Well, and I want to do Obi-Wan next as
Oh,
the comparison.
yeah.
Where, like, Obi-Wan is like the pinnacle of Obi-Wan and Yoda. I mean, obviously, are like two pinnacles of normal Jedihood.
yeah.
and that Anakin is supposedly a cut above. So that's what I'm looking for. Is like we'll go over Obi-Wan and see how does he set apart here.
Both Obi-Wan and Anakin take on Magna Guards on the bridge of the Invisible Hand.
Quite handily.
Yes. And I would say they're both about equal in that fight. And granted, Magna Guards, they have electrostabs which can combat a lightsaber. They can hold a lightsaber blade.
Yeah.
And Magna Guards are bodyguards for high-ranking separatists.
Yep.
They're elite.
Officials or whatever. And they're kind of specifically meant to take on Jedi. That's why they have the electrostabs. So Obi-Wan and Anakin both dismember, I think. There's 4 of them, and I think they take a pair each.
Yep. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty impressive to take on 2 enemies simultaneously that are both designed to kill people exactly like you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's good sabermanship.
Sure.
Swordsmanship.
Yeah.
That's the word I'm looking for.
Most of Anakin's stuff is just on Coruscant after that in Episode 3, I believe, right? Does he go anywhere else?
Other than the fight between he and Obi-Wan on Mustafar.
We see some light telekinesis on Mustafar when he's shutting the doors.
Yeah. Well, okay. So real quick before we get to Mustafar, because there are some solid examples of the difference between him and Obi-Wan in that duel. But before that, you have him leading the attack on the Jedi Temple, where we don't see a lot of it.
Oh, that's true.
But this is him literally marching right out in the front up against a bunch of Jedi. And I mean, most of these are Padawans, but there are legit Jedi.
But have you been surrounded by a group of kids? Those little ankle biters will get at you. You don't even know, man. Like, so I'm just saying it might not have been as easy as
you
he
had
thought.
to watch your pockets. It was scary.
So it might not have been quite as easy, but yeah, he butchers a bunch of kids. So
well, it's not, but he doesn't just butcher the kids. You know, there are actual Jedi in the Jedi Temple.
Well, and that's the other thing too.
presumably
Is I mean,
slaughters.
we learn in the Clone Wars that the Jedi Temple is always guarded by the Temple Guard.
Yeah.
Which are Jedi literally stationed at the temple, whose job it is to keep baddies out.
Yeah, and as good as those clones are, and as much as I'm sure they did, most of that was Anakin's work. I'm sure.
Well, in Temple Guard too. I mean, you're chosen for the Temple Guard because you're good with a lightsaber.
Yeah.
So that you can put down threats. And he takes on a Jedi Temple worth of
and he
guards.
is the only Jedi there, as far as
so that's
point,
pretty dang impressive.
So then he goes and slaughters the Separatist leaders, which is not a feat, really. We could probably do that.
I was going to say, you've got Wat Tambor, who, if he doesn't constantly adjust his breathing apparatus, he's going to choke to death.
It's a horrible
You've
design.
got Newt Gunray, who, cowers at the breaking of a cracker.
Yeah.
And you've got Poggle the Lesser, who can fly, yes, but
he might try and club you.
But you wrench it out of his hand, and then you break his spindly little insect legs.
Where did Poggle get in our villains bracket? I know
he was pretty low. I think
he made it out of the round because
he was up against
Newt Gunray.
Yeah.
Fair. Okay.
So
then
the three of us
we have the duel with Obi-Wan.
Right.
And in that duel, there are a number of instances where we see them doing roughly the same thing, but the scale on which Anakin is doing it is different from how Obi-Wan is. Where they each try and force push each other at the same time, and you have that tense moment of them each struggling, where Obi-Wan is clearly struggling more. They both get thrown back, and Anakin is up on his feet quicker and across the room attacking Obi-Wan as Obi-Wan's just barely getting up.
When Anakin jumps into the middle of the river of lava,
that was the other one.
His jump is farther and higher.
It is
than
probably
Obi-Wan's
the most impressive force jump we have ever seen anywhere.
It's an incredible force jump, and it's significantly more powerful of a jump.
Yeah, Obi-Wan doesn't even really force jump. He just swings over and drops. I'm sure he's using the force there.
Sure.
I couldn't have landed
but Anakin straight up is like, that's passing by. Boing,
so Anakin is just like, that's only a quarter of a kilometer away. I can do that.
Yeah, and he jumps like halfway up the dang thing.
Yeah,
like, it's very impressive
because it's going over that fall and he's jumping through the uprights that are as it's falling.
Which
over.
makes it all the more amusing that the high ground was enough to end that. Every time I see that jump, that's my first thought. But the high ground, guys.
But I've thought about this actually. Okay. So here's the high ground. Okay. Obi-Wan defeated Darth Maul, who had the high ground. Darth Maul's prideful, and here's my thinking. Here's my headcanon. Darth Maul is like, I've defeated the Jedi Master.
Yeah.
The Padawan
is here. The Padawan is literally hanging on for his life. it's playtime.
He was caught
I'm
off guard by a ridiculous move he didn't
I'm
think
a
would
cat
come.
playing with my mouse. I don't even know that he was reaching out with the Force at that time.
Yeah.
To sense that Obi-Wan was going to jump. I think he had sort of, to put it in Wheel of Time terms, like, he'd let go of the one power already.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't even, like, his Force switch wasn't turned on. He was just like, I'm going to have fun with this. And we see him having fun where he's just like, sparks, haha, you know?
Well, but you do get this one little face shot of Darth Maul as Obi-Wan is kind of charging up the jump.
Where
but-
he frowns and is
Where
like, wait,
he's-
what are you
yeah,
doing?
wait, you're doing something. What's going on?
But I still don't think he had, like, sort of tapped into the Force at that point.
It's
And then
I
Obi-Wan
find
gets
it
the
a
hype.
slightly weak rationalization, but I can buy it. You know?
So then Obi-Wan does the flip, cuts him in half, pushes him off the edge. Wonderful, here we go. I am quite sure that Anakin, probably more than once, has heard this story from
Sure.
Uncle Obi-Wan.
oh yeah,
So he sees Obi-Wan on the high ground and is thinking, well, I am so much better than you are. He's filled with that pride, which
Yeah.
blinds him, and is thinking, well, I've done this, I'm going to do the same thing to you. And Obi-Wan is going, yeah, who do you think invented this move here? Don't you think I might have spent 10 years or so thinking about how I might counter an
You're
opponent
using
doing
the low
this?
ground jump on me? I invented the low ground jump.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what's going on, which is why he says, look, don't try this.
Don't try it, yeah.
I have thought about this. I have a counter for it. It's going to end poorly for you.
It's going
don't
to
try
end
it,
up
Anakin.
missing some limbs for you, Anakin.
Yeah.
again.
And that's why it fails for Anakin,
Yeah.
but not for Obi-Wan.
I can buy
That's
it,
my
but
head
even so,
canon.
it's just like I can totally buy arrogance as the explanation
Well,
for
and
that.
he clearly, by
Yes,
that point, is like
is-
90% arrogance.
Yeah. But after that encounter with Obi-Wan, he was only about 60% arrogance.
Woo!
Yeah.
Amputation jokes
Nice.
are funny.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, shoot.
So
there
then we
go.
have him rage crushing an entire laboratory after hearing about Padme's death.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? But that does bring up a good point because of the facial expression on Sidious's face.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, there is some excitement in seeing the power, but I think there's always this little flicker of he's having to use the Force to not get crushed himself. So I
Oh,
mean, that's kind of
So some of the comics, some of the Vader comics,
Uh-huh.
talk about that.
Do they?
Those early moments. He actually is force choking the Emperor also.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, he's that pissed. And then the Emperor basically like breaks the force choke and is like, calm down, dude. You know? And Vader then calms down enough for him to be like, where's Padme? Oh yeah. Or no, but like he calms
to go
down
on,
enough and
yeah.
then Vader or the Emperor like lightnings him and is like, don't ever do that again or I'll kill you, understand? And he's like, okay, fine. But like, yeah, he's like not only crushing the laboratory, he's choking the Emperor. Which that's impressive.
Yes. So then next we see him chronologically in a movie is episode 4, where we don't see a whole lot of it.
Rogue One.
Rogue One.
Oh, I did forget Rogue One,
Yeah.
yes. Which is an impressive display in
So
general.
your
True.
standard force choke
Yeah.
on your
Well-
aspirations.
But it is.
He has the force pun ability, it's true.
He is a dad.
I'm a father?
Guys,
Speaking
I'm
of
a
Star Wars
father.
memes.
Oh shoot!
So the scene on the Tantive, or well, on the bridge crossing to the Tantive,
Yes.
while it is impressive to watch, there isn't really any impressive.
There isn't a whole
force.
lot that
I mean,
stands
he's
out.
yanking guns, which we've seen.
Lifting
he
dudes.
lifts dudes up.
He's doing a lot.
It's
at the
mostly
same time.
saber work,
Yeah. Well, and actually, that was the point I was going to make about the Mustafar fight.
but
now
it's
that I'm
really
thinking
cool
about
looking
it,
saber work.
Is not only is there a lot of force going on, but think of also the concentration that you're having to expend.
Yeah.
Both on Obi-Wan and Anakin's side, they are grabbing with the force things that can survive on the lava and move those around while they're fighting, and
and
there's a
presumably
lot of-
using the force to defend and attack.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
there's
there's a lot going on there, but.
lot
So-
of mana points burning up.
We and that fight in Rogue One, we do see him doing a lot of things more or less at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, in quick succession.
Apparently
So,
not
it's-
able to grab the force plans, but...
Again, I speculate
Stop
he
it,
Chris.
thought he had time. Anyway,
Anyway.
'Cause he does look fairly casual from his perspective.
yeah, that's what I think. I think he's thinking, well, everything's disabled here. I've got time. I can cut apart the crew.
I find that weak, but...
He
I find
finds
that a
you weak.
justification for the general blocking problems that Rogue One has.
Chris, he
Yeah.
finds your lack of faith disturbing. Come on.
That's fine. He's welcome to find it disturbing.
Oh man! Yeah. So
in
then
episode 1,
4,
in episode 4, yeah, he's mainly introducing us to the Force, so nothing
we
there stands
see
out
him
as
choke.
Yeah.
Madi.
Yeah.
Yeah, Madi. Then there's some weak sauce saber fighting.
Yes.
And
him
that's
sensing Obi-Wan's
sensing
presence.
Obi-Wan, sensing that Luke
Sensing
is strong
Luke.
with the Force,
Yeah.
and that's about it.
Yep. Which is our introduction to the Force. Like that's
Yeah,
fairly
that's
normal.
fine. Yeah,
Episode 5, we see him toying with Luke in that last fight.
Yeah.
we see him block laser bolts with
That
his
is a
bare
nice one,
hand.
yeah.
Now, is that a Force ability or is that an armor ability for Vader?
I would say that's
I think
Force,
it's
yeah.
more of a Force ability. Yeah, I think it's more Force.
Because we've seen, I would say we've seen enough of those hands. Like Luke slices right through one of those wrists in the next movie.
Well,
Without, I mean, that's a lightsaber still,
Yeah.
but even so, like his gloves aren't even damaged. You know, like
Yeah.
this, he's wearing gloves on
And
top of those
we've
hands.
seen that is sort of the appropriate hand gesture for repelling attacks. We've seen it, Yoda do it, repelling lightning.
Yeah.
That it's the stick your hand out in front of things,
yeah.
activate your Force button, and whatever is shooting at you will go a different way.
Yeah.
You know, and that's exactly what we see.
So that is a
and then
impressive
he
thing.
yanks.
Well, and I would
Solo's
also
gun.
point out that I do not think we ever see anyone else just catch a bolt like that, just in their hand
Yeah,
like
well.
that, and just no. What Kylo does is different
Right.
and very impressive. We'll get to that certainly, but we don't ever see anyone do that. Just hold out a hand. Those apparently strike it, but don't do any damage.
Yeah.
That is quite impressive. That is a good point.
And then a better lightsaber fight with Luke.
Yes.
And while he's, speaking of concentration, I mean, where he's chucking multiple items at Luke at the same time, ripping them out of the walls, like ripping them out
Yeah.
of their sockets and their hinges and
without
whatever.
all the accompanying hand gestures.
Yeah.
just-
Yeah, just standing there doing it with his mind, which is pretty dang cool. I'm just gonna stick with movies.
yeah.
'Cause there's-
that's what I was thinking too.
It's really cool. I'm gonna mention it, but I'm not gonna count
Cool.
it. So I can't even remember which comic it comes in. It's one of the earlier Vader ones that Marvel has done. But it's Vader down, because he's stranded on the planet with a bunch of rebels.
Oh yeah.
So Vader gets crash landed on this planet controlled by the rebels, and they have like 2 whole like battalions of rebel troopers there, and Y-wings and snow speeders and AT-RTs and everybody with a gun and a grenade. And they're like, Vader crash landed. Literally everybody grab a gun and converge, because if we can take him out, and it's probably going to take most of us to do it, that would be great. But we will never have a chance like this again where Vader is stranded with no reinforcements. Everybody show up. Y-wings bomb everything, like nuke it from orbit, you know?
Yeah.
Everybody shows up, and Vader starts hurling boulders into the sky to take out Y-wings. Pretty cool. Little OP, as things tend to get in comics,
Yes.
but it was really cool. And that's where my favorite Vader line has come from, which I thought was very well visualized in Rogue One, because one of the rebels calls out to Vader, like, Vader, you're surrounded, give up, surrender, whatever. And he says, all I'm surrounded by is fear and dead men. And he proceeds to then lightsaber the crap out of everyone. 2 whole battalions of rebels get mowed down by Vader by himself. It's fantastic. It doesn't count for our discussion. We're just looking at movies.
Fair enough. But it is a nice example of what it is implied he should be able to do.
Yeah.
I don't feel like that's too much of a stretch of the implications of the.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
hyper-powerful
it's telekinesis that we've
Yeah.
already seen.
Yeah, it's
and
just we
extra
haven't
lightsaber
actually
combat.
seen that in the movies.
Yeah. He is in episode 5. Episode 5. That's about it.
Yeah.
So then 6, much cooler lightsaber fight. But oddly, not a lot of Force usage.
Yeah.
Really.
Not on his part.
I mean, aside from like general using of the Force during a lightsaber fight.
Yeah.
Your reflexes, your defense. Yeah. But other than that, I don't think we see him do
David Prowse
anything.
bench pressing the Emperor. But apparently,
Which is also
apparently
cool.
he did not need the Force for that, because David Prowse did that without the Force.
Yeah, so that's just Vader, being a baddie.
Well, and machine arms. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
that's true.
But he didn't have a hand on one of them, so
That's
he's
true.
just balancing
True.
that there.
One hand on the stump.
Yep. One machine hand and a stump.
Yeah.
Bench press. That's
Oh, you're right. He does lose all 4. I was thinking, he's got one real arm.
yeah, because
no,
the one
No,
that
they're all-
stays
it's the
is
gold
one that
arm.
was
Yeah,
already-
yeah. No, you're right. So, yep.
The one that
4.
Dooku took.
Wow. He'd be like a quadriplegic in this universe.
Yeah.
Dang.
Well, he'd be a quadruple amputee.
Amputee. That's the word I meant.
Yes,
That's the word I meant. It is late when we're recording, and I'm very tired.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
and
that's
so that is the
about
end
it.
of Vader's story. So that's what we've got for him.
He can briefly withstand force lightning. I guess maybe as a force power. I don't know.
Well, and given that
or is that just the
now, and
suit
this is
protecting
technically
him, or-
not canon anymore, I'm sure, but I remember reading once in some random book that it's like some Star Wars picture encyclopedia that I picked up in a bookstore in like 10th grade. That where they specified that the reason that you never see Darth Vader using Force lightning is because he cannot because of his suit.
Yeah, which
Because
makes
the Force
sense.
lightning would originate at whatever stump he's pointing, and then it would go through his arms and fry his circuitry.
Yeah.
So for him to last that long while being Force lightninged up the wazoo,
Is
that is pretty
impressive.
impressive.
Yeah, sure. And then of course, but again, it's what 5 or 6 seconds at most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because immediately after that he collapses, you can hear the suit is shutting down.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah, yep.
So Obi-Wan comparison then. So Obi-Wan is a normal Jedi master. Like
Right.
he is very talented, but he's not so exceptional that that anybody.
Yes. Oh, interesting.
Sorry, I forgot to turn off Chris's robot switch. That's
Yes.
my bad, everybody.
Oh, okay, we're good.
There we go.
Yeah, like he is a very impressive Jedi. I don't want to give Obi-Wan. Yeah, thank you. I don't want to give Obi-Wan, denigrate Obi-Wan by any means, but he's a fairly
he's
solid.
generally seen as like above average in
Yeah.
most
Yes.
in like pretty much every field, but he's not like crazy far and away
Yeah.
like Anakin is.
Yeah, exactly. He's
Like-
he's a solid. He's making it to the Olympics, but he's not Usain Bolt.
Yeah,
Right?
like
He's not shattering. He's
yeah,
not
like
Michael
he's
Phelps.
he's a better swordsman than most Jedi.
Yes.
He's not as good as Mace Windu or Master Yoda or Anakin.
No.
He's, he is, I think, probably the best diplomat that they have, but that's not necessarily force
That's that
dependence.
charisma again.
Yeah, it's force charisma. There you go. He's easily the best diplomat on the Jedi Council, but he
We see an
is
impressive
not-
low ground jump in episode 1.
he's not nearly as like force prescient as Yoda, or Mace Windu, who we both see like
Yes.
tapping into the force to get visions of the future. Obi-Wan seems to be.
We don't really see Windu do that in the movies.
movies.
But
In episode 1, there's some meditation going on where he comes out of it and he's kind of like, here, I'm
that
pretty
might
sure.
be
Or
a
maybe it's
deleted
episode
scene
2.
if it is. No,
Anyway.
it's Yoda that has that scene. in
No,
it.
there's
Yeah.
Yoda that has one, but there's one oh it's Mace Windu and Yoda together. They're both meditating
It
together.
might be a deleted
Well,
scene then.
there's
because that's
Mace
not...
Windu walks in and asks Yoda what's wrong.
Yeah.
I don't think we don't.
Oh,
see
maybe
him.
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
Maybe
don't see
I'm
Windu do
misremembering.
that, no.
Or maybe I'm pulling information from Clone Wars, because I'm pretty... No, Mace Windu does have Force visions in Clone Wars, but not in the movies.
Yeah.
I retract it. I retract it.
But yeah, so he's like, and I think that fight with Anakin is the best example of the differences here.
Yeah.
But it's like he is very capable. He's jettisoning out of cockpits as the ships are.
I wonder, though,
crashing
now
into
that I think about it in perspective, or like in terms of Obi-Wan, I wonder, though, because, of course, by the time they have the duel, Anakin has already become Darth Vader.
Yes.
He's already sworn himself. So he's gone to the dark side. I wonder if it's not a reflection of their commitment, right? The dark side is all about just go nuts, go wild, unleash everything you've got in you. Where the
fair.
light side of the Force is restraint, discipline. So Obi-Wan could be saying, I could jump up that high, but that would be reckless.
Yeah.
Let me exercise some restraint. You're making a lot more wild, crazy, swings with your lightsaber. I'm going to be reserved and defensive.
Yeah.
So it could be a reflection of their sort of stance with the Force rather
that's
than
fair.
power. I don't know. This thought just came to me, but I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
Even with
I would but Obi-Wan
the
also
Greater
admits
Reserve and
that
all that.
he is more powerful,
yeah.
though.
Well, and even with the Greater Reserve and all that, I don't think Obi-Wan would have made that jump.
I agree. Yeah, I give you that.
But
But in terms of when they're actually engaging, like I'm thinking specifically when they're both fighting on the platforms and stuff. Yeah, Anakin seems to be more powerful, but I wonder if it isn't Obi-Wan going, I don't want to kill you,
yeah,
and I'm part of the light side of the Force. I'm going defensive here. I'm gonna try to talk you out of this, rather than kill you and force you to die in your sins, so to speak, die in your error.
Yeah, that's fair. But we don't really see a lot from Obi-Wan beyond.
We see, actually, I would say
a
we
lot
see
of the
some
stuff
good
we see-
jumping, not as far as that one, but like in episode 2 in the factory, Obi-Wan is jumping around like he's freaking Spider-Man. He's jumping down from the rafters, he's jumping up into things. He does quite a lot of
that's
jumping.
right. Well, and we do see plenty. We see him jumping. We see him in the
Obi-Wan
arena.
survives a fall that would kill most people in episode 3 when Order 66 happens.
That's
Yes,
true.
it's
Into
into
water,
water,
yeah.
but even so, from
At
that
that
height,
height,
that water should be concrete, and he survives.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's
Doesn't he
got
fall
to
head
be-
first too?
Yeah, he does have his hands together.
Yeah, but
But even
so,
so, there's the only way you can survive that is
With
through
the
the
Force,
Force.
yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no other way. And then he
to say nothing of man. I rewatched that fight between him and Jango Fett, where he whips that cord as he's falling around that thing, and then just jerks to a stop with
Yeah.
that cord around his wrists.
he's gonna cut
Ow,
your hands.
man. Cut your hands.
And he doesn't cut his hands, which means he used the Force.
Well, heck, to make that
Well,
throw at all, he used the Force.
I was just gonna say, I think that the fact that the hook catches it all is probably him being like, and Force, stab it into the ground. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. So with Obi-Wan as kind of a baseline, I would say that Vader, we don't actually see Vader exhibit a lot of stuff that is over the top of the baseline. Like, we're told he's super powerful.
That's
we
true.
do see a few
I would
instances.
say Anakin goes above the baseline, but Vader does not.
Well, if we're talking, Vader, so to speak, as in that fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin at the end of the Battle of the Heroes at the end of
Well,
3,
yeah,
but-
so are we just counting Anakin and Vader as the same person then?
Yeah, that's
okay.
what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah.
But we don't see a whole lot from Vader that stands out as
So
above
aside
the-
from being slightly more physically athletic, the jump is what I'm thinking of. That's the only area where I see him far and away coming out ahead of the baseline of Obi-Wan.
Yeah. I'd
'Cause
say
it
his
should be-
his prescient abilities where he's seeing the future. Now, there's also some
that's
debate
true.
there whether or not he's being deliberately guided or given that by Sidious
That's true.
is the other thing. So because it's like I kind of think the implication there otherwise would be that prescience and the way they use the Force in that way is something that you really don't delve into too much until you're kind of reaching higher levels of the Force. Like we see Yoda do it, we see Windu in the.
Well, I don't know.
We do
though.
see everybody
Luke
gets
does it.
visions, but it's even when Luke gets it, it's Yoda saying, "No, back up! Like you should
Yeah.
not be doing this right now. Like
That's
don't go
true.
too far."
But I wonder though, because and this is obviously an intentional comparison that Lucas makes of, Anakin goes down the dark side and makes poor choices, Luke makes correct choices and stays with the light.
Yeah.
Right? So there's that intentional comparison there. But Anakin's visions that we actually get to see compared to Luke's vision that we are told about, because I'm assuming Force visions were too expensive in the 1980s. But they're very similar, right? Loved ones that you care about very much are in danger.
Yeah.
And the reaction of Anakin and Luke is the same. I must go help them,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? Both of them end up, of course, making the choice to go help them instead of listening to their masters.
Yep.
So I don't think it is necessarily necessary that Palpatine is feeding him,
I don't think that's a but it's possible.
because it seems similar to Luke, and it's not like anybody's feeding Luke that
Now,
vision.
but
you know what I
but
mean?
Hold on though, the premonitions that Luke got weren't so much premonitions; they were what was happening currently, weren't they?
No, because Luke hadn't been caught, or Han hadn't been caught yet by the Emperor, or by Vader.
That's true. That's true.
When Luke gets the vision, they have not yet. The Empire has not arrived on Bespin. So it
Or
is
at
a
least we
Force
haven't
vision.
seen that lunch scene with
Right, yeah, but his friends are not currently being tortured, is what I mean. So it's not like there are,
But
the torture is happening and the ripple of that is touching Luke. It hasn't happened yet. So it is a prescient
sure?
Force vision.
are you sure that hasn't?
And
I did-
Luke
I did
or
note that
Yoda
last time I
specifically
watched it,
tells him, this is a vision of the future. Your friends could be in danger, but this is a ploy by the Empire, which is why you shouldn't rush to do it. You should stay here and finish your training.
Yeah.
And then Luke says, no, peace out.
So, speaking of Luke, let's get back into the Skywalkers
Yeah.
then. Luke is the chosen one again.
We see
Debatably.
debatably.
we see some vague forciness in episode 4.
Yeah, we see him using the Force to fire an impressive shot, apparently.
Yeah. But it's really more of the Force going, and now pull the trigger.
Yeah.
and that's about all that there is.
It was also
Oh, I guess in the
translation
training,
as well.
on the,
Yeah, we see
I mean,
him blocking
some very, very
blaster
basic
bolts.
learning to trust the
Well,
Force, moving blaster
But even in the
bolts.
trench as well,
Yeah.
it was also he had to actually guide the shot. I mean,
The-
not
yeah.
guide, he had to line it up correctly.
But what I'm saying is, like, the Force abilities are still fairly, like, low
Light,
key.
sure,
you know,
yeah, sure.
it's blocking
we
a
have-
training robot's blaster bolts and
Yeah.
listening to the Force to tell you when to pull the trigger.
And we have Vader's confirmation of the Force is strong.
Right.
This one.
But that's about it. And to me,
Yeah.
that just seems more like there's a lot
He's
of raw
been-
potential
yeah,
here.
yeah.
Okay, but it's not been refined yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Episode
Episode 5,
5.
we see him pulling the lightsaber out of the snow. First time we see something moved with the Force.
Yeah. which was way cool,
Yeah,
man.
well, it's like, you can do what with the Force?
It's so cool. Yeah. Every
We
time I
see
watch
him-
that scene, I'm like a little kid again. I'm like, there it is. You can see it wiggling. Oh, he pulled it out. It's just so great. Oh
Yeah.
man. Empire
We
Strikes
see
Back.
him trying and failing because of his doubts to pull the X-Wing out of the swamp.
He defeats a Wampa. Granted, he has the help of a lightsaber,
Slices the arm off of one.
but nonetheless, like that's not nothing to sneeze at.
That's fair.
I mean, comparable to the Gundark, I would say.
And I would say the Gundark is worse.
If it's a
but
nest of Gundarks, yeah.
Well, the nest is working.
the Gundarks are bigger and more aggressive.
Are they bigger?
The Wampa is only like a couple feet taller than a person. It's like 8 or 9 feet tall.
That's a difference of like 2 feet.
Either way.
But the
Either way,
mass
still.
of a Gundark is much bigger.
Either way, he slices
Anyway,
the arm off
yeah.
of a Wampa and runs away. I mean,
Yeah.
Obi-Wan could have done that.
Yeah.
So,
He survives an impressively long time with no shelter on Hoth at nighttime.
yeah.
Or sunset, I guess, dusk.
He also gets saved by Han.
He
it's-
does get
we don't
saved
know how
by
much
Han.
of that is what.
That's what I mean, is from the time he exits the Wampa cave to the time Han rescues him, his Tauntaun dies when it stops. Han's Tauntaun
That's
dies when
fair.
it stops moving after just a few seconds, like
That's
30
fair.
seconds.
True.
And Luke is out there for much longer, like a couple hours.
Well, is he though?
Yeah, look at the daylight. There's quite a lot of daylight when he exits. When Han gets to him, the sun has
There's
clearly
at least
set.
enough time for the sun to set, yeah. So,
So, like,
Well,
at
'cause
least
I'm
a half
thinking-
an hour.
He stumbles out of the cave. He starts calling for Ben immediately, doesn't he? And he has the vision.
no, he stumbles out of the cave,
And then there's a
starts
cutscene.
moving. Then it cuts away. Then it cuts
It
back
cuts
to him
back to
collapsing
Han
with Ben.
in the base going, where the crap
Yeah.
is Luke? I've got to go rescue him.
Then he
Then it
collapses
cuts
and starts
back
calling
and
for Ben.
hallucinates Ben.
And then
And
Han
then
comes
Han comes
riding through the illusion.
So
through
it's-
the image.
I apparently
It's
need to watch the original
a
trilogy
while.
again. I'm
Yeah.
mixing up a lot of the
Yeah,
order
no,
of
and that's
things.
what I'm saying is like, even so, even if it's only even if it's only 15 minutes, that
Still,
Tauntaun
yeah, that
is
Tauntaun.
dead
That Tauntaun, yeah,
in
is
under a minute,
Mm.
and he lasts for like at least 15 minutes, but probably closer to an hour, I would guess.
Yeah.
Like, that's impressive. That's gotta be like him drawing on the Force, whether
fair.
he knows it or not.
can accept
He's
that.
gotta do that.
I can accept
Sure.
that. So then we have the Battle of Hoth, which, there's some cool stuff. He's, tossing grenades into
Yeah,
walkers and stuff, but nothing that really
Nothing
stands out
particularly forcey.
Yeah.
Nothing. Yeah, that's just him being a good pilot and a good
Gutsy,
soldier.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
gutsy,
he's
yeah.
got some
Not
chutzpah, that's for sure. But
as. So then he flies to Dagobah, crash lands on Dagobah,
hold on, he
has a seagull
flies
song
through
with
those,
Yoda.
which is
and-
awesome. Stay tuned for a future meme episode. oh man! But no, he flies through an atmosphere that he can't see. Like he can't see the nose of his ship. Like
And
if you
then
look at that,
crashes,
you
yeah.
can't actually see the nose of the X-wing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he doesn't hit a single tree, and those trees are not small.
Now, I mean, I know it's not canon anymore, but the novelization for that movie, actually, it was a novelization for Jedi when he goes back to Dagobah because he does not have trouble the second time. Luke's theory was that Yoda actually, I couldn't have orchestrated all that, actually brought him down.
Made the fog.
Made the fog, yeah.
Interesting.
But, again, not canon anymore.
Yeah, so
Well, somebody's used the
Who knows?
Force then. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's just speculation.
either that, or
There's no
he's
direct
just Tabarin.
evidence.
He's a protagonist, and hey, you needed to land here.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
He crashes
but-
into the tree, story's over. So.
yeah, exactly. So it's yet another convenient unlikelihood in Star Wars.
Yep.
But so he has his training with Yoda, where he does a bunch of jumping around and flipping and
Lifting
swinging on
rocks.
vines, lifting rocks with his mind, lifting R2 with his mind while doing a handstand. Like there's some impressive
He's
stuff.
like, doing backflips
But
with
there's
Yoda and
but the-
crap. And
There's nothing there to indicate that this is any different from what normal Jedi training would
Sure.
be.
Well, I think that's especially when we go and look in the prequels at sort of daily life in the Jedi Temple. A lot of it looks kind of the same as what Yoda's doing. It very much seems like Yoda's going, okay, I'm here to train you. How can I recreate the exercises on Coruscant here?
Yeah.
Tell you what, why don't you lift those rocks? I'm going to climb on your back. You're going to swing from here to here. You're going to run around a lot. You're going to meditate over there. Like, it seems very much like an active, let's recreate Coruscant Jedi Temple right here.
Yeah.
So, I would agree. Not
he
really
has
above
his
the mark.
extended vision down in the hole in Dagobah,
Yes, which is so cool.
Is debatable how much of that is his doing and how much is the Force through that
I would
place.
argue that it is more the Force
I
in
would
that
too,
place
especially
than-
given Rey's experience in Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Well, and also, in the Clone Wars, Yoda has similar experiences as well, where there are physical locations in the galaxy where, for lack of a better metaphor, like where the veil is thin
Right.
between the ethereal Force world and the physical world.
Where
and
the Force is pooled.
Yeah, and so there are physical locations where the Force is very, very strong, and it can sort of act on its own almost. So we see Rey get her Force vision, which is, I think, very much the dark side forcing itself on her and saying, here's what I'm going to show you.
Yeah.
Luke doing the same thing in that dark place as well, where the Force is saying, here's what I'm going to show you, and then Yoda as well. They're all dark side places.
I'm going to show. Well, and I'm going to show
Yeah.
you what your. I'm going to basically make your fears manifest. I'm going to push this up against you and show you the dark things you don't want to see.
Yeah, so I think that's
I
more
would
the
attribute
Force,
that
not
to
necessarily Luke.
So then there's his fight with.
Although I think you do
Vader.
need to be Force sensitive and fairly strong in the Force to be able to successfully interact, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Where, I mean, you've got to have the Force, I think, probably to have the vision in the first place. And then, in all three instances, actually, it is like you're saying, Chris, the dark side is saying, here's a whole bunch of nasty that I'm going to shove in your face, and it's up to you whether to be consumed by it or do you push it away.
It's the villain that's trying to drag you down, right?
Yeah.
These dark side places are trying to get you to fall to the dark side.
Right.
Fear and
in
anger.
all three cases, I think there probably is a reliance on the Force as well as just their innate moral character to push aside the darkness and say, nope, I'm rejecting this. So he's certainly drawing on the Force in there.
In some way, but nothing that would indicate.
But
that
I would
he-
say it's
nothing-
probably
nothing
like
is particularly-
70-30, like 70% location, 30% Luke doing
Yeah.
Force stuff.
So then we have his fight with Vader, in which it is clear Vader is basically toying with him.
Correct.
However, there is some impressive performance from Luke.
Mm-hmm.
Vader
Most
even says so.
impressive.
Most impressive. Yes, we see our first Force jump from Luke, there.
Which is way cool.
Um,
That always, man, as a kid, I was like,
I had
would
no
love
idea
to
what the
do
cuss
that.
went down there. I was just like, how did he get up there? It wasn't until way later that I was watching that. Whoa, wait!
Yeah,
he
there it
jumped.
is.
That-
The blur.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was weird.
And it's seriously, it's a blink and miss it kind
Yeah,
of
it
moment.
is. Well, I
Yeah.
know. I
Yeah.
did. I always blinked.
Yep. Good times.
And then
Fast enough that Vader doesn't even
catch it. Yeah,
Catch
he
it.
thinks Vader's
He's turned around.
Even so,
But
though, he doesn't.
Yeah,
sense
he doesn't
it, I
sense
guess. I
that
don't
Luke
know.
is not below me anymore. He's now above me.
He's not
Like,
encased
But
in
you know what,
carbonite.
though? The Force isn't apparently that specific because Vader does not know exactly where Obi-Wan is. He knows he's close.
Yeah.
Also, when Vader's wandering around underneath the stairs,
Yeah.
he knows Luke's around here somewhere.
Well,
But
the
he still has to
explanation
find
that
him.
I heard, and this is probably like from old canon, is that like there are ways to mask your Force presence,
Makes
and
sense.
which is like what Obi-Wan and Yoda are both doing. That they're like, nope, we're taking our toe out of the Force pool, so there are no ripples, kind of a thing. And so that Luke does that.
What Luke
in
also
the,
does later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That was the explanation I heard, which sure
Sure.
makes
why
sense.
Either way, there's some impressive performance there, and then he loses his hand and he jumps, which nothing really Forcey about
okay.
those, but
So this is something that, as a kid, I was like, he's got to be using the Force because that thing is like out kind of in the middle of that big chasm tube, and Luke somehow ends up near the side. Now, I don't know physics. There could very well be some sort
well, I
of
mean,
like
if you're falling and there's
air resistance,
yeah.
and it pushes you to the side. I don't know how any of that works. Kyle, I
mean,
forced you to listen to this
if you're-
podcast while I was down in
he's
St. George
essentially-
last time. Listen, tell me where I'm wrong. Explain this to me.
He's
Skydiving.
essentially skydiving,
Yeah.
and so you can
Yeah.
guide where you go with your body. if
Okay,
you're
so
skydiving.
maybe I don't know. Yeah. So
Now
he
that
sucked
said,
in, so maybe.
that said, he guides himself to a precise location.
And calls for Leia.
Now, presumably,
successfully.
he's got, multiple spots he could potentially have landed. But to guide yourself to the wall, feet first while skydiving, feet and back down.
Yeah.
That
So that you can
that is
slide,
not an easy
yeah.
task. And then to slide in there uninjured, other than your multiple current injuries.
Yeah. Previously sustained injuries.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he did had a few there. We wouldn't be able
A
to
sore
tell.
bottom, I would
But
imagine.
yes.
Probably got a good old rug burn.
Some
even
nice
though
rug
that-
burn.
Yeah, no kidding.
And then to call for Leia, which is
really impressive to be like, I'm going to think of this one person and put myself in their mind. That's pretty dang impressive.
which again helps that she's force
Well,
sensitive
and not
they're
just-
twins.
Not just
Twins
with
are
Leia,
freaky
he
connected
then
anyway.
immediately does it with Vader.
That's true.
Well, is it him or I thought it was?
It's Vader reaching out to
Vader
him,
reached out to him that time.
presumably, but either
Yeah,
way,
but then he successfully responds and
he
has a
immediately,
conversation.
yeah, just father. And
They don't have a conversation there.
well, Luke.
I'm pretty
well,
sure
Vader
he does.
talks to
Vader
him.
says
Vader talks-
something.
It is
him.
unclear whether or not Luke is actually hearing
Yeah.
everything Vader's saying.
But regardless, I mean, with two different people, I mean, because I'll buy the twin thing. Twins are weird.
Yeah.
I've got twins. They're weird, all right? But to do it with Vader as well, that's impressive right off the bat, too. And this is like the first time he's tried that, no less. That's very impressive, the more I think about it.
I wonder if the idea in Wheel of Time, how people that use magic can see how others are using magic, putting the weaves together, right?
Yeah.
I feel like the Force kind of has a similar concept, where if you feel someone doing something, you kind of feel
I
how
kind
it
of feel
works.
like Robert Jordan watched Star Wars and went, okay, you need some more hard and fast rules about how this is working.
Yeah.
We'll make it to you.
I love it. No wonder Wheel of Time is so good. Oh,
Especially
man.
because that explains a lot of what happens with Rey later in Force Awakens.
That's fair.
She always
Picking
does
up
stuff
watching
immediately
stuff.
after Kylo does it.
Yeah, she
Oh,
picks up a lot of
interesting.
stuff
Yeah.
as she sees.
So
That
she's
is-
just a giant copycat cheating off his test.
Absolutely.
Okay, got it. Can do. Cool.
So episode 6, we get everything in Jabba's palace, and we see him cause some sort of terror in the guards when they try to accost him. We see him use the Jedi mind trick, which doesn't stand out from what we've seen Obi-Wan do, but we do see it. We see him topple into a pit and then not really use the Force to take out the Rancor, as far as we see. I mean, I could bet that he used the Force to nudge that rock towards the button, but other
it's a
than that,
skull.
is it a skull?
Can you believe?
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Is it a skull?
I didn't know it was a skull until earlier this year, and I'm like, it's not a skull, it's a rock. And I went back and watched it and freeze frame and frame. It's a skull. It's a human skull that he throws. Yeah.
I just
Awesome.
always
That
like the
is fun.
hand of something that he's laying on top of when
Yeah,
he's underneath
yeah.
the cave. That was always a good little. As
Wait,
a kid, so when Luke hides underneath the rock and the Rancor starts to reach for him, and he kind of bashes it with the rock. There's a hand of something, a dismembered hand of something there.
Nice.
It freaked me out as a kid, and now I always have to see it whenever I.
That's
Now
funny.
Ross has to check under the bed.
Yep.
So
before
then at
Rancor
the
gets in.
Sarlacc pit, we get some general impressive acrobatiness, but I wouldn't say anything that really stands out above your average Jedi.
He is fighting a lot of dudes.
He
at
is,
once.
yeah. And that is something, but
Yeah.
and it's pretty. It's tame in the way that we weren't conceiving of the Force and what Jedi could do in the same way back in the 80s
Right.
as we are now. So I presumably if they were to have made that, if they were to remake that movie now, he would be more acrobatic impressive.
Sure.
Yeah.
But he does come out victorious throughout all that, and then he returns to Dagobah. Not really much there. He senses Vader the second they arrive at Endor,
Mhm.
and
Before they are. Well, okay.
The-
As
mean,
there.
before
When they
they're
arrive
on
in the
planet.
system,
But
yeah.
as soon as they fly in, he's like, "I'm endangering
Vader's
the
on that
mission. I
ship.
shouldn't have come." And Vader immediately knows he's there, so there's both of them doing that. But again, there's some familial ties there, so it's like there's that too,
And it
Who
gives
knows?
us one of the best memes ever.
which is
Yet. It's an older meme,
yeah.
sir, but it
It
checks,
checks
out.
out, yeah.
Which is now an older meme. I love it. It's meme-ception up in here.
Yeah.
So we see Luke on the speeder bikes.
Which apparently is not.
Yeah, everyone's riding speeder
Yeah.
bikes, and so we see him take out a speeder bike with his lightsaber,
Which is
something.
that timing
That
that
timing
it would
would-
require. is
But again, I wouldn't necessarily say
incredible.
that's above and beyond your average Jedi.
It's not much
That's
harder
true.
than blocking a blaster bolt coming.
That's
at
true.
you,
It
so.
wouldn't be.
I mean, it's actually, I think we do see Qui-Gon do that with a speeder bike sort of thing in episode 1. When it's chasing down Obi-Wan after they've gone down to Naboo.
He's blocking the lasers back at it.
He does,
Oh,
but no,
yeah.
he does cut it in half.
Yeah.
Like,
Does
you
he?
see half of it go flying. I'm pretty sure. But anyway, I think we can
Yeah.
all agree that,
Yeah.
you know,
It's
skilled
not really
Jedi can
above
do
the
that.
Still
Yeah.
within, yeah.
And then he talks to Vader. Well, he gets taken captive by a bunch of Ewoks. He floats 3PO around, which is impressive because we don't often see many Jedi move things without the physical gestures accompanying
Yeah,
it.
all he does is close his eyes and lean his head back.
Yeah, which is kind of a step of like, yeah, he's learning here. He's doing good.
You
there.
would think, though, with his force like danger spidey sense, he would have seen the trap and not got caught.
He does
They
try to
do.
stop Chewie.
Yeah.
He just doesn't see it quite in time, apparently.
See, why not be like, force hold Chewie, stop your hand.
See, it's more like a spider sense. You know, there's danger near, but you don't know exactly what it is, right?
And
Well,
unfortunately,
so-
it actually all comes in the form of this voice behind you going, "Danger, Luke Skywalker! Danger!
it's actually not as helpful
Danger,
as you
Will
think.
Robinson! Danger!"
Because I mean, like they didn't know they were all standing on the net. They all knew that Chewie shouldn't touch it, except for Chewie apparently.
Yeah.
But
Always thinking with his stomach.
That's
Anyway, and then he goes, meets with Vader, fights Vader, wins.
It's like Chewie in that episode is like a new D&D player who's like, oh, treasure chest in the middle of the room untouched. And all the other players know it's a mimic, and they're like, no, don't do it.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, but it's treasure, though.
He's
Like,
the new
goes for
D&D
it.
player going, well, while everyone's doing that, I'm going to go off by myself through the
Yeah.
Yep.
city.
and loot all the tents.
Good times.
Kyler.
Oh, I was thinking of my wife getting picked up by Mr. V, but
Oh,
Yeah.
there are several instances.
yeah,
Yes, we've all
you don't
been
go off by yourself. Anyway, so he fights Vader in the Death Star, the new Death Star, and wins.
there. Wins.
And slices off the man's hand, and then
Survives an impressive amount of electrocution by the Emperor.
that too.
Like, not only survives, but has strength enough after to lug Darth Vader's heavy robot butt from the Emperor's throne room to a hangar bay up onto a shuttle. Like,
Yeah.
dang, that's impressive. I
And-
think he was just faking when he's like, Father, help me.
His version of puppy dog eyes.
No. It was his secret plan all along to manipulate Vader back to the good side.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Palpatine got played.
I do like when manipulative bad guys get played by manipulative good guys, but so then we don't see Luke Force at all again until Last Jedi, in which half of the movie he's not connected to the Force. He reconnects to the Force and immediately takes on Rey in a little fight where he basically toys with her until she pulls a lightsaber into it.
Yeah.
And to go from I'm a older hermit who has not been using the Force in quite a while to okay, this is the first time I'm stretching my Force muscles in years, and I am just toying with someone who has a lot of combat experience and is a skilled combatant, and he really is just messing with her.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive to just be like, all right, I'll plug into this game I haven't played in 10 years and wipe the floor with you youngins that have been playing for a while now.
Apparently
Yeah.
riding a bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Or
Yeah.
he's just that good.
But
Yeah,
Luke
true.
also, like, explodes the hut that she's in.
Is that Luke?
Or
I don't
Or
know.
Kylo.
Is it the
Maybe.
combination of all three of them? I don't know.
Well, 'cause
I
remember,
always thought that was a
Kylo's
little
not
vague.
actually there. It's just a projection.
Yes, but
But he's also kind of there because his glove is wet. So
Of him. Well,
not from that particular instance. But yeah, they are touching. Rey and Kylo are touching hands at that
that's
moment.
right when Luke comes in and is like, no kissing.
Not
kids."
with my niece.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, nephew. Sorry, not with my nephew. Freudian slip there. She's not his niece. Anyway,
Luke and the things
turns
for
out
sisters.
Kylo and Rey are siblings.
Yeah.
Twins, in fact. What a coincidence.
Yeah, boy.
If some people had their way.
George.
and their real names are Jason and Jaina.
Yeah. So yeah, I would now that we discussed, I would put that at Luke. He explodes that.
Yeah. That was my impression of the scene.
Yeah. In his forcibly breaking those two apart or whatever he's doing.
He's still got good force sense as far as where living things are. I mean, he spears that fish from 60 feet above.
Well, he doesn't
It's,
have the Force at
wobbly.
that point. That's just
Oh,
hand-eye
oh,
coordination.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang.
And probably
Yeah.
experience.
And
Yeah.
he's been doing this a while now. It's
Yeah, but
it's
still.
like It's like Castaway Tom Hanks tossing a spear and getting a fish from 12 feet out.
Yeah. Or farther, however.
There's
far
just
that
a lot of
was.
skill there, but so he takes on Rey, basically toys with her. She leaves, and then there's the whole Force projecting himself across the galaxy
Yeah.
and toying with Kylo in a fight to a degree that Kylo cannot even tell he's there because he hasn't been able to touch him.
Well, and also, I was thinking about this actually in preparation for this episode. I was thinking about that scene in particular on Crate.
Yeah.
Okay, when he's toying with Kylo, the only time Kylo, or like when Kylo finally realizes it, is basically when Luke allows him to realize it.
Yeah.
Okay, which means the moves that Luke is pulling in front of Kylo Ren are plausible enough for Luke to be doing that Kylo Ren buys it.
Yep.
Which means, even though Luke is not physically doing those things, we can assume that
Kylo's seen him
Luke
do it before.
has done those kind of things
or
before.
could have done those,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so like, dang, those
Well,
are
and-
impressive.
and
Those
even
moves
then,
are
it's like-
so impressive. When he does
he
like the
is-
limbo and stuff, it's like,
Yeah.
that is some killer acrobatics.
Well, and he is mentally projecting himself across the galaxy and everything, and he is, not only that, he's mentally projecting an image that doesn't actually reflect what he looks like right now.
Yeah.
And he is projecting it with enough agility that his nephew is not scratching him. And his nephew is no clout here. Like, I mean, this is he's got skills. And so to be able to react that quickly across the galaxy, that's still pretty damn impressive.
unbelievably impressive.
Even if he say maybe he wouldn't have had the physical prowess to do that, to have the mental prowess to do that when he's as unpracticed with the Force as he is.
Well, he is force projecting a younger version of himself, so maybe the younger version of himself
but
could have.
well,
again,
done
I'm
that.
saying, but even if he now
Yeah.
could not physically do that,
Yeah.
he has the mental
Yeah.
power
well,
to evade everything, to cause his projection to evade everything.
and this
without
is what
any-
I'm saying. Like, of the Jedi that we see on screen, I would say probably Yoda is like the gold standard for mental force powers.
Yes.
That blows Yoda away.
I could agree with that, yeah.
Like-
Yoda's got some impressive
Yoda
shiz out
has
there.
really impressive force abilities, but like you said, to project a not true to real life image of yourself across the galaxy in real time, in combat with an opponent, a skilled opponent, and not to let the opponent touch you, that
And
is
over the duration he does too. Like
Yeah.
he walks into the fortress in Crate,
walks
he
out,
talks
waits
to
to
Leia,
be shot,
walks
has
out,
the
gets
fight,
shot, has
yeah.
the fight, all of that before
It's
he finally.
sustained. That
There's a reason it kills him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is so impressive. That is beyond. I honestly think that. Oh shoot! Actually, oh no, because Yoda does do something similar in Star Wars Rebels.
Does he?
Yeah. Oh
Wait, Yoda does?
yeah. Remember when Ezra is Ross and I are the only ones that have seen Rebels out of the three of us.
Is this season 5 that you're talking
No,
about?
season 4, I think.
Yoda's in season 4 of Rebels?
Yeah, well, season 3 kind of, and then season 4. He
don't
guides Ezra, and then Ezra like goes into like the little archway or whatever, and there's like that
that's right.
dimension like between reality
Yes,
or whatever, and
that's
Yoda
right.
is there. Yoda is also force projecting himself into the temple on Lothal.
Right.
So there is, but Yoda is also not doing the crazy shenanigans
Yeah.
Luke is doing.
Right.
Yoda, in all of those first projections, Yoda is seen in a sitting position
Yeah.
where he's
Well,
just
we didn't necessarily
chilling.
have Yoda on our list, but I think we should have penned him to the last tier because I would say Yoda is our gold standard of all Force users. Like
Sure.
He's
is,
an incredible swordsman. He's
he's the incredible
incredibly-
swordsman. He's lifting X-wings out of the water. He's catching heavy things. Like Dooku knew he could do that, and
Yeah.
he knew he would do that.
and
when he
he's
collapsed
chucking
those heavy
lightning
things.
back at Dooku, which I don't think Dooku knew.
He's
he could
he's
do.
the first one we ever see to catch lightning and then toss it back. We didn't know that was possible
Well,
until we saw Yoda do it.
Obi-Wan catches it with his
Catches
saber.
him on his lightsaber,
But that's
which
different.
It is
was
different.
a Legends canon thing that was
Mhm.
then canonized in the movies. when
Right.
nobody
But
did.
Yoda first reflects the lightning
Mhm.
and then absorbs it.
yeah.
That is dang
It is
impressive.
And Yoda is the only Force is Qui-Gon's the one who discovers the whole Force ghosting.
The living force, yeah.
And Yoda's the one he makes contact with, apparently, and teaches it to.
Mm-hmm.
But Yoda is the only Force ghost we have ever seen exhibit Force abilities upon the world, despite being dead.
That's true.
That's very true.
And he does something we've never seen anyone do as a Force
That's
ghost.
true.
He calls lightning from the sky.
So I'm calling Luke and Yoda even then in their ability to force project their...
in that ability.
In that ability. Because we do see Yoda in Rebels force project himself across the galaxy, because Dagobah is not close to Lothal.
Right.
So, distance-wise, I'd say, okay, you're even. Luke is a little bit better
on the intensity
and what he's doing, because Yoda is basically just sitting there on a rock. Only the rock's invisible, but it's Yoda in a sitting position always.
However, there's also this. Yoda survives that.
That's true, yeah. Well, maybe because he's not going intense.
Yeah. And also because he's not living in an era where the Force has been balanced, and his balance just got killed, so now he has to die.
Right.
But
yeah, exactly. But that's a good point, though. Yoda manipulates real elements as a Force ghost.
Now, hold on, though. When Jedi do pass on, remember, they become one with the Force.
Sure,
but that's
he's
the
just
living
all
Force
I'm saying
that we're
is
talking
he's
about,
the
where
first
he has
one we've
kept
ever
himself...
seen do that. We have never seen a Force ghost, to my knowledge.
I'm not sure it counts, because it's almost like... I mean, it's my understanding...
He plugged into the Konami code, is what you're saying. Or plugged the Konami code into him, that's what I meant.
It's more like that they are an extension of the Force now. They're just
Well, that is
personification of it.
canon. Okay, so now we got to talk about what happens when you die in the Force. Okay, so you become most people become one with the Force. Your identity
He's
no
subsumed
more.
in the
is
Force,
dissolved into the Force.
You go back to the source.
Yeah, basically.
Speaking.
Yeah, so the Jedi that have performed the necessary preparations, which are never explained, to become part of the living Force, which is different than the Force. You're still sort of touching the Force, but you maintain your identity. That's how you have Force ghosts.
Okay.
Qui-Gon did not fully finish preparing, which is why he's only able to really get his voice out. Yeah. He's never able to fully apparate.
Although then again, apparently Anakin managed it, so...
Yeah, so who knows? Maybe
we see him at the end of Return of the Jedi. He appears originally as the actor. It was the actor who'd played Vader under all that makeup.
Yeah.
Who was not David Prowse.
Yeah, David Prowse got screwed.
Yeah, he kind of did.
Maybe it was.
And then later replaced with Hayden Christensen. Creepily.
So it's Yoda. Maybe Yoda and Obi-Wan brought him from the netherworld of the Force.
I could see that.
So those Force ghosts that complete the necessary preparations, while still connected to the Force, are also still separate from the Force.
Okay.
Either way, whatever's going on with them, he's the only person we've ever seen do that.
Yeah, which is a big fat point in his favor as far as power goes.
So Luke dies there, and I'm sure we'll see him as a ghost doing stuff soon.
They've already confirmed that.
Well, we know that.
We know that he's in it.
Whether or not they confirmed it, that's happening.
Yeah,
that's obviously happening. Especially with the passing of Carrie Fisher.
Yeah,
that is happening.
Yeah, for sure.
So then we have Kylo and Rey, which we were discussing earlier. We basically can treat as a unit because, as far as we understand it, Rey's abilities come from the fact that that Kylo's good opposite. She's the balance to him, and she's picking things up from him. But that the source of her raw power is that she is the balance to Kylo. So Kylo, one of the very first things we see him do is stop a plasma bolt in midair, which is intense.
And he's holding it the entire time,
and then just lets it go.
That is so just stupidly cool.
Yeah. Well,
Man,
and I love
that blew
too
me
that
away.
My favorite part about it is that when he lets it go, it continues on its path and crashes, which kind of implies it was pushing forward that entire
that's what I mean.
time.
You see it jiggling back and forth.
And so it's not like he's holding something in midair and it just holding it aloft. He is fighting the full force
gripping
of that
it with the force,
and he's got a mask on, but I'm pretty sure he's not even breaking a sweat.
Yeah. Very, very impressive, and props to JJ for that visual. Dang.
Yeah.
You want to talk about setting up the awesomeness of your villain in one shot?
Yeah.
That's the one. That's how you do it. I mean...
And also to have the reflexes, because he doesn't just stop it in midair. He does the hand gesture. He
Yeah.
turns around, puts his hand out, and stops it in midair, which means he had the reflexes or the prescience to turn around and get his hand out before that blaster bolt was able to get.
If I'm not mistaken, his
Yeah.
hand goes out and then he looks. If I'm not mistaken,
Possibly, I don't think
so.
I don't remember.
I think
the
it's
same
a
time.
full spin,
Yeah,
head,
anyway.
head and hand. But either way, that's
Very
some,
impressive.
that's some intense reflexes there as well. We see him fully paralyze people with the Force, not just people, Force users.
He gets to like Vulcan mind meld now.
Yeah, and he has taken the mental aspects of the Force and turned it into full on
Assault mode.
mind rape.
Mind rape.
Yep.
Where he's just rummaging to which particularly sets him apart from Vader, because if Vader had the ability to do that, then Episode 4 would have been a lot shorter.
Yep.
Like, we explicitly know Vader could not do that, because if he could, that's what he would have done to Leia.
Because everything we've seen so far up to that point has been your thoughts betray you. So it's more that you can kind of get impressions.
We're catching surface thoughts. You know,
Yeah.
we've got detect thoughts going here.
Yeah.
But it's not a full-on,
Well,
I'm just going to rummage
I don't
through your
know,
head for
actually,
what we want.
because when Vader reports after they capture Leia on the Death Star, and Vader brings in the scary interrogation droid and whatever, Vader reports back to Tarkin that he's been unable to get anything from her, that her mind is resistant. So he may have tried some sort of thing,
but
and she just was like,
he still
"Nope."
brought in the interrogation droid.
Right.
Oh yeah,
It's
but-
not to the level that Kylo is doing it.
Yeah, that's
Where
sure.
Kylo, it was so confident in his ability to do that he found
just did
Rey and was like, wait, she has this in her head? Never mind, we don't need that
don't
droid
need the droid
anymore.
anymore.
He was,
Yeah.
and it was hubris, because he's a Sith. Well,
Yep.
he's not a Sith, but he's a Sith.
He's a Sith.
And he's not a Sith in the same way that the First Order is not the Empire. But yeah, he was so confident in that, probably with good reason. Like, we see him do that to Poe earlier. That
Poe breaks down, man.
Yeah, and Poe is no weakling.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows what he's about generally.
Yeah, Poe specifically, he's one of the top operatives in the Resistance. I mean, this is a dude who has been trained in torture resistance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he doesn't last all that long
Nope.
against Cut.
Not at
See,
all.
he's trying,
Yeah.
but he lasts like less than 30 seconds.
And it is clearly excruciating for
Yeah.
him. So yeah, there's a whole lot of things. just
Man,
right
that
all
was such
there
a great
in
scene.
Force
Oscar Isaac,
Awakens.
if you ever listen to this, you did such a good job there. Totally believe it.
He
It
does
was
a good
awesome.
job with basically
Man.
everything he picks up. I haven't seen anything from him that I didn't think he did a good job.
That's
So.
fair.
So then, what else do we see from Kylo? Like, that's all some pretty intense stuff already.
I would say
We see him take a bolt from Chewie's
and keep
Chewie's
standing.
crossbow
When that bolt
to
sends
keep standing,
stormtroopers
get out
flying.
into this. Yeah, exactly. Keep standing, get out and fight both Finn and Rey in a row in the snow. I mean, like, he does a lot with that wound,
Yeah.
and that is some intense stuff.
I would say his swordsmanship is probably a little below par in episode 7.
I would. Agree.
He's got more rage
I would
and passion
see
behind it, but he is not where Anakin is in episode 3.
For me, the
Well,
greatest.
They've done an interesting thing with Kylo. So
He does have the coolest looking lightsaber, though.
yes,
Okay, second
Kylo's-
coolest. Darth Maul's is the coolest.
I prefer Kylo's. Honestly, I do. Like
I'm
the
not really
crossguard.
fond of the crossguard, but
and the other sparks. I love that. Anyway, Kylo's style is mimicking both Darth Vader's and Anakin Skywalker's because the styles are different. When Darth Vader puts on the suit and no longer has the mobility that he had as Anakin Skywalker, he switches his saber tactics from
Yes.
a very fast acrobatic style to a very overpowering style.
Yep.
Kylo does both. He switches back and forth between faster acrobatics-ish.
That is awesome for you to notice that. I hadn't noticed that, but you're right.
Yeah, but because
That fencer in you, Russ.
I know because
Yeah.
I'm so experienced. But yeah, he will. He switches back and forth all the time throughout that fight with Rey.
Yeah.
And in Last Jedi, he's a little heavier on the overpowering side than he is on the acrobatic side.
yeah,
Yes, I
he
agree.
definitely.
But
does.
what I'm saying is, he's not. I don't think, just judging on like his moves and stuff, which do look cool, and are like the throne room scene in Episode 8 is flashy. It's definitely like prequel trilogy. Let's do the flashy saber moves. But I still don't think they don't look as refined as the
But
other
see,
ones. I think
No, I think in Snoke's throne room he's more overpowering.
he's got the
with his
Vader
style.
overpowering, but that's because Vader's like, what are you gonna do? Chop off my leg? Ooh,
Yeah.
I'll have it replaced tomorrow. You know what I
Well,
mean?
but it's because Vader physically couldn't move as fast as what he
Well,
used to.
but that's also why he's just like, it doesn't matter what you do to my body. Most of my body couldn't be replaced by a robot in a couple of minutes. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know, so I don't need to be, you know, I don't think Kylo would be, I mean, obviously he's a good swordsman, but I don't think he's as good as the other people we've talked about.
My main reason that I would say just
got more
logically,
passion, but-
the logically he probably isn't is because Anakin lived in an era where there were tons of people to practice lightsaber combat with, where he was
And
going
on.
up against Sith and on. You know, he was fighting in a war with Sith
Yeah.
and Sith creations that could also use lightsaber, you know, require lightsaber battles as opponents. Like he had combat
Sure.
experience over
But
and over and
nonetheless,
over and
this
over
is the
again.
comparison we're making.
No, and that's,
Anakin
no,
versus,
but that's what
yeah.
I'm saying. Logically, Kylo just hasn't had the chance
Yeah.
to get to Anakin's degree of skill
Yeah.
just because he hasn't had as much
He hasn't
combat
had the
testing.
opportunity.
Like
Yeah.
he definitely has had the opportunity to practice first in Luke's Jedi training camp temple, whatever he had going, and then with the Knights of Ren, whoever the heck they are.
Mm.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's clearly had opportunity to practice, but that's different from actual combat experience, which Anakin had in spades.
Yeah.
And Kylo's is mainly been non-lightsaber usage in combat. You know, he doesn't block blaster bolts, he stops them with his mind, which is intense itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I logically, however, in comparing him to Anakin in his favor, he is the second Skywalker that we know of to wipe out an entire Jedi temple.
Hey!
He does not do so on his own. He has
Knights
his
of
followers, whoever they were.
well,
however
Anakin
converted them.
had, hundreds of clones.
And there's that, yeah.
Well, and there weren't
And we
so
also
many
don't
in
know
the
the
temple.
scale of what he did with.
Well,
Luke
it couldn't
compared
have
to-
been
It
to
could
that
not.
scale.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
logically could not
Yeah.
have been to the scale that it was with Anakin.
My guess is that it was a
Nevertheless.
few dozen.
That's,
Like 4 or 5
That was
dozen.
my impression as well.
Because it looks
But-
like there's about a dozen Knights of Ren that leave. And so it's like, okay, so if that's...
ish.
Well, that's what I'm
In-
saying,
in
like
that
a
range.
dozen-ish,
Okay.
give or take. And so that, I'm guessing there's probably 2 or 3 dozen that were killed or, whatever.
And then on the subtlety end of the scale, he also has enough refinement over his massively powerful moves to be able to mask his intentions from Snoke, who
Yeah.
very blatantly is saying, I am in his mind all the time.
Mhm.
Like, basically, I have parked a spot in his mind.
Yeah.
I know what's going on there, and I'm confident enough in that to just be comfortable, and he's able to be subtle
Shield
enough
that,
underneath
yeah.
that to be able to kill his master by, from his side. But which is a fair degree of control. That's
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd say that's the bulk of what we see from Kylo Force-wise, right? And then Rey is basically
A mirror.
basically a mirror. Yeah, everything she does is mirrored
The
by Kylo in some way.
swordsmanship is very similar.
Yeah.
Now, what we do on her own, we do see
We
her
do see
shatter
massive,
that rock.
yeah, the rock and lifting. Well, it's not shattering the rock. There's just a whole pile,
There's a pile
of
of
rocks,
them,
and she
and that
lifts
is quite
all of them at the
there.
same time.
I don't remember if it made it into the movie, but in the trailer, a crack opens up in the rock they are standing on or sitting on.
I don't think that
'Cause
was-
No, that's not in the movie. They see like the teeniest little sliver
Oh,
of
she
light.
does. She does crack the rock she's sitting on when Luke is training her. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I was thinking of it.
Oh,
when
oh,
she
it's-
clears the tunnel.
Yeah, I was
Right,
thinking
right,
the
right,
end
no.
of it when she clears the tunnel. That's what I was thinking.
And
she
that's
does track that.
And that's just as she's meditating. She's not attempting.
Yeah,
to
she's
lift
not
Yeah.
trying
that
to do
rock.
anything.
So-
Well,
and
and
she
Luke,
does lift all the little pebbles too while she's
Yeah.
meditating.
Luke just flat out says, like, "You're as powerful as Kylo." Like,
Yeah,
that's
I've
basically
only
what
seen
he
this
says
once
there.
before.
And
Yeah.
and it's it's like this is frightening. And that's another point in Kylo's favor. There is Luke, Mr. Luke Skywalker, is looking at Kylo and going, "Holy crap! I have only seen this kind of power once before, and now Rey." Like, if Luke is looking at Kylo and going, "Holy crap, powerful," then that kind of lends itself to the idea that somehow the Skywalker line is only becoming more powerful over time instead of diluting.
Like a fine wine.
Yeah.
or a
something.
good cheese.
But we don't see Rey do much that Kylo doesn't do. There is the cracking the rock there. We see her lifting all the rocks.
stuff. We don't really
end.
see Kylo levitate. I'm sure he can, of course.
Well, I
but-
mean, we see him stop a plasma bolt with his head,
Yeah.
mind, which we don't see her do.
Yeah. She also, well, I mean, they are connected by Snoke, but I mean, they both seem. I guess now we've got to give that to Snoke. There's zero evidence that either of them are contributing to those visions.
Yeah, no.
Well, and Kylo
They are
for
both
sure
just
knows
like,
he's not.
what are we?
Yeah.
How is this happening? This is not us. So
Yeah, so there's no way that's them. What else?
she's got her fantastic piloting abilities, which we only see a smidgen of from Kylo at one point in Last Jedi,
Well, and even then, it's not really terrible.
and even then, it's not.
I don't
yeah,
know,
it's
man.
not.
Kylo is flying at an extremely high rate of speed.
Oh no,
through the
like I
guts of
don't
a
doubt
ship.
that he is quite skilled, but
Ray does it through a Star Destroyer.
I know.
yeah, Rey does
It's
it through
also
the
not
Star
moving.
Destroyer. She has that bad A moment where she
Yeah.
sets up the shot. with it and
No, I know
that, and-
he's. What I was saying, well, I'm not denying Ray's good.
Oh no,
piloting
but where he
skills. I'm just
flies
saying,
into the hangar to shoot, yeah,
yeah, like that's what I'm saying is we can't knock his abilities.
Yeah,
like,
and I'm
he's-
not.
He's
Sure.
got good
Yeah.
ones.
So, but yeah,
Um,
basically they are about as evenly matched as you can have two characters be.
really good swordsmanship
that's a plot
displayed
point,
in the
yeah.
throne room as they take on the Praetorian Guard. I mean,
Yeah.
they're both.
Where he does take on a significantly higher amount, but again, that's something I would go experience versus slightly less experience.
Yeah.
I don't think she's had any saber combat training. I mean, she's had her staff,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the sword
and
is
she
a lot
has
different.
fought him when he was.
I
injured and
want
everything.
her
yeah.
to have a freaking double-bladed lightsaber in 9
That could be fun.
with her staff training. Like
Oh,
that
that
would
would
be
be fun.
so cool
You know what?
to see that.
That would be cool.
That would.
See a good guy doing a double-sided
Yeah.
saber.
Yeah.
That'd be so
actual
amazing.
canon, yeah, that would be fun. So yeah, that's our roster more or less.
So, your last point of Luke talking about Kylo, I think whittles a lot of this down.
I do too. This is part of why I wasn't worried about the time, is because I was like, I feel like
Yeah.
once we get to the
Yeah.
end, it'll be a pretty.
I
Like we
think
could debate some,
As
but
far as power goes, I mean, Yoda tells us, right? You know, Luke asks, "Is the dark side stronger?" Yoda emphatically says, "No, it's not, but it is the easier path,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Quicker.
or the quicker path." Yeah. So that being said, I think Kylo and Rey are like the strongest pair of any that we.
As far as
discussed.
just sheer amount
of force, power, and
power,
ability, yeah.
If we were talking about, if we're talking Wheel of Time, they are Randall Thor and whatever her name was that was even stronger than Nynaeve. Like,
Yeah. So it's going to be one of those two. And I think I'm gonna rest on Yoda's assumption. Look, the dark side is not stronger.
Yeah.
It's easier, it's quicker, but it is not stronger. So I'm
as
gonna go
of
with
the
Rey.
end of episode 8, I would give it ever so slightly to Kylo simply because of experience.
I would too, but episode 9 is coming
But
up,
once
and
9
Rey will
comes out,
surpass him.
yeah, I don't doubt
So-
it. Well, I don't know if she'll surpass him so much as match him perfectly, but we'll see, yeah.
She'll probably match him perfectly, and then the issues will be resolved by non-force means. I bet. Like I said, it's gonna be Christopher. No, again, because in my opinion, in my summation, it's a redemption arc for Kylo.
I think that's probable,
honestly,
but not set in
But
stone
wouldn't
yet.
we say that is part of also what makes Luke more powerful than Vader, is that he's able to bring Vader back? So great, that's another point in Rey's favor.
But I would
But
say,
is
is that a force
that's
power,
not a
or is
force
that
thing. Yeah.
hey, I'm your son?
I don't know.
Because I think it'll be a very similar situation.
Triumph, good over evil, Ross. Rey's the best. She's gonna win. She's the most powerful.
I have enough faith in the balance of the force to say that they are evenly balanced and probably will remain so, more or less. So I would put the two
Well,
of
it's
them.
gonna be close, but I think it's like 51-49. You know what I mean? I think you're right. There's a lot of balance, and they are evenly matched. But I think in the end, it will be Rey by a nose.
I don't know.
I'm sticking with my
Okay.
my top pedestal is still Yoda. I will still put sheer force
really?
power. I will put Kylo and Rey on a you're sharing that gold medal. But if we're going with like not just sheer power, so like Randall Thor is stronger in the force in the one power than anyone else. but that doesn't necessarily mean he can do the most with the one power compared to someone who's had more training and more blah, 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 blah. I would put, as far as if we're taking skill with the Force into account, I would put Yoda as the most powerful Force user we've ever seen. Just because he's always, well, he does lose a fight against Sidious. Straight up, like, he's overwhelmed in that.
He is, yeah.
He does. He holds his own for a while.
Yeah,
but
then he
the
backs
avalanche
off when
comes.
he does because
Yeah.
he realizes I'm outmatched.
And again, Luke knows Yoda. Luke still made that claim about Rey and
Okay,
Kylo.
so I'm gonna say most powerful Force users is Kylo and Rey sharing that gold medal. Most skilled Force user is Yoda.
Fair enough. I'll give you that.
I would agree with that.
I'll take that podium there.
So that is my final ranking there. I would then, after Kylo and Rey in most powerful, I would put Kylo and Rey, Luke. We didn't get into Leia because there's just not much there.
There's not.
No, because I think she loses it on the experience.
She does,
aspect of it.
but just as far as we don't get shown much.
And in
I
canon
would assume,
sources,
presumably, she's somewhere near as powerful as him.
she is not as powerful as Luke. So in like all the books and stuff, like Aftermath, Bloodline, whatever,
okay.
we do see her using the Force, but she is a manipulator. She like mind tricks people and pushes their emotions in the way she
That
wants
actually
them
would
to
make a lot
go.
more sense where Kylo's coming from. Then.
Yeah. So that's her thing, is like, I need this negotiation to go well. Use the Force. Hey, we're buddies now, aren't you?
That's kind of
So you wanna, a little bit.
It is a little
Like,
dark.
she won't like outright like force them to, but be like, I'm gonna calm your emotions and make you a little bit more like in a good mood for this talk. I'm going
I have
to,
trouble getting past the headcanon of they're twins. Their potential was the same.
Yeah.
He just went into the I'm going to be a Jedi path.
And she will
went
also
into
like
politics.
read people's emotions with the Force,
Yeah.
so that she can then better make an argument as a negotiator. So there's like that's
But if-
how she uses.
I
it,
would
like,
say that if things had
political
gone differently, if she had chosen to be part of this new Jedi Order with Luke, well, first of all, it probably would have gone a lot better. But
stuff. True.
So-
Yeah. Fair enough.
But she probably would have been his equal. But again, with what we're shown on screen, I can't really argue that she is.
Well,
as
there
it
we go.
stands. But so I would put Kylo and Ren, Luke, theoretically Leia, and then I would actually put Vader after all of them, and then Yoda.
Obi-Wan?
And Obi-Wan would be down at the bottom because he's ostensibly our baseline. So
Yeah. Now, there is one aspect of this that we have not discussed.
Oh no. We've been here so long. Okay.
What are their midi-chlorian counts?
well, clearly, Kylo's is over 9,000.
Over 9,000!
Oh my god. Chris just killed Ross. Oh man. That was excellent.
Unfortunately, as far as I know in canon, and I don't know why I just said unfortunately, as far as I know in canon, we are never given any numbers when it comes to midichlorian counts.
But we do know Anakin's is more than Yoda's.
We do know Anakin's is more than Yoda's.
Yep.
But we're never actually given any numbers to assign to those, so it is rather difficult to assess how high their midichlorian
Yep.
counts are. Turns out that Yoda's midichlorian count was 4. And Anakin's is 7.
Holy cow.
No, wait a minute. Doesn't he say over 20,000
I
or
think
something
so.
like
Oh,
that?
does he?
I think
Oh,
so.
man.
Yeah.
Dang it! I hate being wrong.
I
I'm
don't
doing
remember
so
the
much
numbers. I
on
don't
this
think that's the
podcast.
numbers.
Oh man. Guys, I think we're going to call it for a night. That was a good long discussion. We hope you enjoyed that. Let us know who
let us
you
know if
think
Yeah.
is the most powerful.
Now,
Who-
obviously,
would
the most powerful, however, in the future will be the child,
The
of
love
the
child,
love child
yeah.
of Kylo and Rey.
be- Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
That's why we didn't even talk about it. It's
Because
so obvious.
they just I'm a little terrified for the future of the Star Wars galaxy because these Skywalkers just keep getting more powerful, and apparently the Force is like, oh wait, there's another powerful Skywalker. Let me make another one over here from just some
And then
rando.
they keep breeding. They're gaming the system.
They are.
Dang it! These Skywalkers and your selective breeding. Oh, shoot. Okay,
Wait,
wow.
wait. Yeah, no.
So, next episode, I am so looking forward to. I can hardly stand it. We are bringing you another trivia episode. This is gonna be about the prequel movies, episodes 1, 2, and 3. I'm gonna be quizzing Chris, Ross, and for the first time as like an official, for real, full-time guest, Ross's wife, Carrie.
my lovely wife.
It's gonna be awesome.
We've already been studying for it.
Yep.
I have not, so I'm not expecting to do well.
We
in this.
have
I'm hoping to make some
more
jokes you'll all
categories
enjoy.
even than last time.
Yes.
So
I was surprised by the number.
I
of
was
categories,
impressed. Yeah.
Yeah,
Make for a
I
longer
looked at
episode,
how
good
long
call.
it took us to get through the categories last time, and there was like, I need to add about this many more to get us to like an hour and a half with all of our ridiculous banter.
Indeed.
Yes.
Anyway, so look forward to that next time. It's going to be awesome. As last time, there will be lots of rules that are totally arbitrary because we are making this up as we go along, believe it or not.
I will.
Which is the only reason I won.
I will argue that stupid mulligan.
There will
If we
be
do another one of
more official rules, but there are some other things that I want to try, and because I am unprepared, we'll be trying them live next time, and we will see how they go. So be sure also to follow us on Twitter. Oh yeah, here was my, I was gonna do this here. What the heck was his name? Fode? Or is it Fody?
Oh,
Greg
yeah.
Proops'
yeah.
character,
Greg
Fode?
Proops.
Fode and Bede. The two that had
Yeah,
different
Fode.
names.
Okay, so yeah, Fode and Bede. Yeah, it's be like, hey, be sure to hit that like and subscribe. You know, I actually hate it when YouTubers and crap do that. It's so unbelievably irritating. I understand that that's how the game works, but gosh, it's
That's the
irritating.
moneymaker.
It is. So just go like us on Twitter and join our Facebook. so
Like
that
and
we
subscribe,
can-
everyone.
I know. I hate it. I don't want to do that. Anyway.
And you don't have to. I did.
No, stop
I have
it.
no shame. I'm good. I will shill us out. That's good.
Do
That's
it.
fine.
Twitter, we are at More Civilized. On Facebook, we have a Facebook group called A More Civilized Podcast. Join it so Steven doesn't have to talk to himself. Hey, Steven.
He's
And,
not. He's talking to us. But
yeah.
Well, you guys. I don't
Well,
participate
yeah,
much,
that's
but
but yeah, do it. We want to hear from you guys. We really do. We don't. We're not just saying that to say it. Like, we actually would love feedback on the episodes. What you liked, what you didn't like. We would love to hear your opinions on, whatever it is we talk about. We really genuinely would love to hear from you guys.
Remember, we've made a podcast to talk about Star Wars. We like talking about Star
Yeah,
Wars, so
I won't turn you away.
we have been known to enjoy that.
indeed.
So
We've been
yeah.
known to enjoy that for several dozen episodes and at hours at a time.
Yeah.
We actually keep talking about Star Wars after we finish these episodes.
Yep.
So
Which honestly still does surprise me that we do actually keep going after we're done recording. But
Yep.
anyway, you can find me on Twitter at Mr_R_star.
And if you have any topics you would like to hear us talk about, discuss, argue about, please let us know, and we will probably get to that because we'd love to hear what you want to hear. And that is nope, I wasn't going to plug anything for a second. I thought I was, and then I was like, nope, never mind, I'm not. So thank you all for listening, and may the force be with you all.
Always.
I'm Anna Graves, and thank you for listening to a More Civilized Podcast.
Oh, I know.
Like looking
I'm
at,
busting out my Greg Proops tonight, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you gonna do the la 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 la?
No. I wish we'd been recording that.
We are.
Oh, yes, good.
We are.
Throw that in at the end, Ross, please. Oh, my heavens.